Hello, everybody. Here's the intro.
Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is present, back for some more SPTV. And I figured, this afternoon, let's just do, it's Tuesday. I don't know that I've ever done a live Q&A on a Tuesday, much less Tuesday around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But I figured, Marc and Claire are going to do their really long Tuesdays. What do they call it? Top 10 Tuesdays. They're going to do their David Miscavige shoops. They're going to do their whole thing. And so I figured, you know what? Let me just do something in the afternoon. And let me take my time, because I got to tell you, I really enjoy listening to Marc and Claire take their time, not rush through the questions. When we do our Mondays with Mike and Marc, we're trying to do 30 minutes on my channel, 30 minutes on Marc's channel, 30 minutes on Mike's channel. And it does result in us being in a rush to answer questions really quickly. It also results in an awful lot of the questions that get asked not getting answered. And, there is a crap ton of things I wanted to discuss in videos today. And let me see. I actually put a little list together. There's going to be some rulings coming down in the Valerie Honig lawsuit. No, I'm sorry. Some rulings coming down in the Danny Masterson case today. I've got a video I want to do about the reason I think Tom Cruise really didn't attend the Oscars. I don't think it has anything to do with Nicole Kidman. I want to do a video about Clearwater selecting an interim mayor yesterday. It's not good news if you ask me. This guy's son, Brian Ongst Sr., is the one they selected to be the interim mayor for the next year. His son literally works for Scientology. It's ridiculous that no one on the city council mentioned the problem, the appearance problem, the perception problem of having a guy serve for mayor whose son works for Scientology. That was a real disappointment. Mike Rinder did a post this morning about David Miscavige and the March 13th L. Ron Hubbard birthday event. Something I wanted to discuss. And also, Scientology is going as fair gaming. Attorney Graham Berry, the attorney who is representing Valerie Honig in her lawsuit against Scientology. And Graham is also representing, I really thought, okay, Valerie Honig might be the only Scientology lawsuit he's representing right now. I thought there was another defendant, but I think I'm just getting confused with Valerie twice. And I figured, you know what? By the time I sit down, record, and edit videos on those topics, it's probably going to be too late, and I don't want to step on the schedule of Marc and Claire, because I want to be able to watch their stuff. So that's how we got here, guys. That's how we got to a Tuesday afternoon Q&A. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to answer all the questions. I'll do a mix of super chats and non-super chats. And let me just see. I'm looking through the chat right now, seeing all you familiar names. What is this one here? Lydia Vaughn, Stretch Claw. I was very surprised and delighted to meet another Scientology watcher in a room of 15 strangers. Lydia, I'm dying to know what you're talking about there. I see Marylin here. Marylin Honig. Hi, everyone. Guys, if you already have your Mike Rinder bobblehead from the SP shop and you want to get one of these hand knitted, Marylin, I'm not sure if it's knitted or crocheted. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I know there is a difference. This is the Xenu costume that Marylin made for the Mike Rinder bobbleheads for me, Mike, and Marc. And she makes these. And she has an Etsy store. I think it's an Etsy store. And Goldie, if you have the link to Marylin's Etsy store where people can actually buy these and some other things that she makes, please feel free to put that in the chat. Always good to see you, Marylin. All right, let's see what else is going on here, guys. Seeing everyone from all over the place. Nathaniel. Nasty Nathaniel's in the chat. Good to see you, Nasty Nathaniel. Hey, Nate, did you notice that when Scientology updated the hate website they made about me, you have a starring role on the website? Yes, you check it out. You don't want to miss that. Unbelievable. Okay, Andy Law, Guildford area, UK. Fantastic. Yeah, it's actually the other reason I was like, let's do this early, because I could do a Q&A and try to have it end right when Marc and Claire's begins. But I figured, if I'm going to do a long Q&A, let me just make it actually earlier in the afternoon, so more of the folks from Europe and even Russia and China. Actually, I guess we're not getting a lot of people from China here. Australia. Let's make it so that more of the non-US folks can attend. So, okay, scrolling. All right, what is this one? K Valco. Hi, Osa and all the other Scientologists. Love to you all. It's never too late to start over and be free. There is help for you all through the Aftermath Foundation. They can help you with whatever you need. Yeah. I imagine David Miscavige has to be getting a little nervous having assigned so many people from the Office of Special Affairs to watch all of the videos that I'm putting out, that Marc and Claire are putting out, that Mike Rinder's putting out, and other folks as well. And, you know, for them to be constantly, for all these people who have to watch our videos, to be constantly reminded that there is life after Scientology. There is success and happiness after Scientology. There is an enormous amount of support out there in the real world after Scientology. And not only that, that even if you don't feel you don't have the resources to leave Scientology, to start over, to reinvent yourself, to essentially start from scratch in the real world, that the Aftermath Foundation will do whatever it takes to help people get on their feet when they leave Scientology. And that's, you know, whether you're a public, whether you're a staff member, whether you're a Sea Org member. And it does have to make David Miscavige a little nervous that the minions he assigns to watch our content are being regularly reminded of all of that. So I will say we have not yet had someone from the Office of Special Affairs reach out to us needing help to leave Scientology after having been assigned to watch our content. But I'm just saying, it has to make Miscavige nervous. Let's see. I just saw a comment that disappeared on me. Bummer. All right. Hello. I'm still in the very early part of the chat. Oh, the comment that I saw, I can't find it, but it had to do with my getting redder and redder and redder. A lot of the redness that you guys see has to do with the settings on my monitors. I have 4 monitors in front of me, and I have them all set to night mode and to a certain red shift. And that's because the alternative, well, there's probably many alternatives that I haven't explored. The orange color is actually reflecting on me from my screens. I'm not as red as I appear. I'm not as red in real life as I appear on the screen. Christine, here's something for a treat for puppy. I have a Labradoodle. What breed is Goliath? He's the best groomed dog I've ever seen. Well, thank you, Christine. For you guys in the Mondays with Mike and Marc yesterday, I brought Goliath, the Suppressive puppy, onto the screen with me, probably for the first time since I've started uploading every day back in July. And so he is a Labradoodle. Goliath is a Labradoodle. He is 3/4 poodle, 1/4 lab. And he is the friendliest, kindest, gentlest, smartest dog I've ever known. He's actually the only dog I personally have ever had. I did not grow up in a dog family. We were a cat family. And Goliath is 10 human years old now, but he doesn't look like it and he doesn't act like it. And he's doing fantastic. So thank you, Christine. Nasty Nate says Graham Barry is a legendary SP. He really is. You know, I'll tell you, Graham Barry is an attorney who has had more success in getting financial settlements from Scientology on behalf of people who have been defrauded financially. And I don't mean defrauded like, hey, Scientology has a bridge to total freedom, but it's really bullshit. I mean defrauded like, hey, give me your social security number and your name and your address, and without your permission, I will open up $100,000 of credit cards in your name and put a bunch of unauthorized transactions on there in order to get our stats up. When the Aftermath Foundation encounters people like that, we send them to Graham's way, and Graham has had incredible success getting these people made whole and more than made whole. So Graham Barry is definitely a legendary SP. It's good to have an attorney out there who knows exactly what Scientology is going to try to do, and doesn't care. He's going to move forward anyway. So thank you for that comment, Nasty Nate. All right, let's see. Brenda Farrow, you guys need to make it 1 hour on each other's page, not 30 minutes, please, please, please. So I do tend to agree with you. I mean, logistically speaking, it's hard to spend 3 hours. Actually, that's not true. It's not that hard to spend 3 hours. We really end up doing like 30, 40, and 60, just because, just the nature of the thing. I agree. I mean, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time. What would be really fun, and we have to experiment with this because the capability is there. We just don't know how the execution would work. StreamYard, which is the platform that we use for this streaming, has now enabled the ability to have one video streaming, the same video streaming on all three of our channels at the same time. We already know that we can do that. What we don't know is how exactly will the comments work and how exactly will the super chats work. Like if I host it and we're streaming it on three platforms, you can watch the video on Marc's channel, for example. You can comment, you can super chat, but without us testing it out, we think there's a chance that all of that would come to my channel, even if it's being made on the other channels. And that wouldn't be very fair. So we're going to experiment with it. And I'll tell you what, if there's a way to stream simultaneously on all three channels and each channel gets credited for the super chats on that channel, I feel like we probably would end up just doing, like just straight 2-3 hour live streams uninterrupted instead of jumping from channel to channel to channel. We'll have to experiment with that. There's another thing we're going to experiment with, and that is YouTube has the ability, my channel at least right now has the ability to do a live stream and have it be a fundraiser for a nonprofit. And we've never tested it before. We don't know exactly how it works, but that would be an interesting way to use that simultaneous stream. The purpose of the simultaneous stream is to get as many eyeballs on a video as possible. Where it gets complicated is when you're trying to figure out, okay, but what stats go to what channel, if you know what I mean. But when it comes to something like doing a fundraiser for the Aftermath Foundation, it wouldn't matter what channel the donations go to if all donations are going to the Aftermath Foundation. So I think that's something you're probably going to see us do in the next week or two, is do a live stream fundraiser for the Aftermath Foundation and just test out how exactly does this work. And it really is going to matter how it works, because I'll tell you, if YouTube, because you guys know, if you're watching my channel and you're doing super chats or whatever, YouTube's taking somewhere between 30 to 50% of those super chats. I don't know the exact number. It's somewhere between 30 and 50. It might be closer to 30. If they do the same thing on a fundraiser, that would really defeat the purpose of doing a fundraiser for a nonprofit on YouTube. I'm hoping that YouTube has different rules for the revenue sharing when you're doing a fundraiser for the Aftermath Foundation. Because wouldn't it be cool if they were like, if you're doing a fundraiser, we don't take any of the money? Wouldn't that be awesome? Because that's why we tell people not to donate to the foundation through our channels. It's a waste of money. YouTube's taking a big cut of that. If you want to donate to the Aftermath Foundation, that's why we say go to the spshop.com or go to the aftermathfoundation.org, where the only like 100% of the proceeds are going to the foundation. If you donate through our website, the only thing that's not going to the foundation is whatever fee PayPal is charging, which I don't know, is it 1%? Is it 0.5%? Maybe it's 3%. So anyway, that's kind of a long answer to a simple comment, but yeah, we're going to be playing around with some different stuff on that. Thank you for the comment, Brenda. Let me see. Pete Jensen, question, can public Scientologists write off their auditing on their taxes? In the United States, they certainly can. That was the big benefit, one of the major benefits of Scientology getting its tax exemption back in 1993 from the IRS, is that Scientologists were now, again, allowed to officially write off all of their donations. And that's why you see people making $1 million donations, $5 million, $10 million. It's a huge tax write-off. Thank you, Pete. Lydia von Stretchclaw. Hey, Aaron, I had a meeting with 14 strangers in Glasgow today. No way. And one of them has seen all the Mike and Leah material. I recommended SPTV to her. That is amazing. I've actually been to Glasgow, believe it or not. Wow, that is really crazy. A tiny little meeting out in Glasgow, and you had a fellow SPTV watcher, or a soon-to-be fellow SPTV watcher. Thank you, Lydia. Pamela Crawford. I have a short story. In 2016, there was a huge fire that burned a whole town and others totally. A friend of mine was camping at the Walmart parking. Well, Pamela, that is a short story. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's a shame. Wait. There was a huge fire that burned an entire town and others totally. A friend of mine. That's a terrible story, Pamela. That is horrible. But thank you for the super chat. Okay, Terry Ray. I saw someone from my high school comment on a live chat. I just added him, and he was heroes not here now, probably working. Hi HL3. If you see this at another time, that is incredible. Someone else knows about the fires? The Paradise fires were such a tragedy. Okay, so someone knows what we're talking about here. All right. Kevin, I've started talking to an ex-Scientologist, and she told me that the e-meter is 100% correlated with what you're thinking. She's convinced and kind of convinced me. Could you speak to this? Well, correlation is not causation. So even if it was 100% correlated, well, I guess if you're 100% correlated, then that really is the same thing as causation. So I said in a video, well, I even said in my interview with Lex Friedman, I said, I can't tell you everything the e-meter reads on, but I can tell you it's not just hand sweat or hand pressure. And anyone who spent thousands of hours working with the e-meter can tell you, they may not be able to tell you everything physiologically speaking that affects the movement of the needle on an e-meter, but it's not just hand sweat and hand pressure. When I say that, I'm not saying, and therefore it's reading on thought, or therefore it's reading on mental pictures, or therefore it's reading on the thetan. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is it's not just hand sweat and hand squeezes. So no matter what it is physically that's affecting the electrical flow going through your body on the e-meter, I would disagree that there's 100% correlation to thought. I mean, I would disagree completely. That's just simply false. But if you have a thought, if you are holding the cans and sitting quietly and silently on the e-meter, and you think of something exhilarating, that needle is going to fall. Now, somebody could go, that's because your heart raced up, or that's because your breathing picked up, or that's because you instantly sweated a bit on your hands. I'm not even saying those things aren't true. I'm saying that cause and effect relationship between how your thoughts can affect the functions of your body is why somebody would say the e-meter is correlated with what you're thinking. It's more like saying what you're thinking is correlated with how your body behaves, and how your body behaves is in various ways is having an effect on the needle of the e-meter. So I feel like that's a pretty good answer. So I hope you like that, Kevin. All right. What do we have here? Pamela. Scientologists showed up, set up a tent. Oh, this is the continuation of the story, the Walmart fires. Scientologists showed up, set up a tent, and left. Didn't offer food or clothing to people. They just left water. Oh, yeah, Pamela. I mean, so you're talking about Scientology's volunteer ministers, and that's what they do. They show up, they set up a tent, they have water. Maybe they have snacks, but you usually just see water. And they do Scientology touch assists, nerve assists, and locational assists. And I guess if they start getting really unpopular, as they tend to do, maybe they'll start offering some sort of logistical help, offering to be runners for materials, messengers, something like this. They're really just showing up for the photo op. They're really just showing up for the press release that they're going to put out. They're showing up to get footage for the next international event that David Miscavige is going to do, to show David Miscavige that all people, everyone's donations is going to helping people and spreading the good word and PR of Scientology. The VMs do anything but, and Scientology doesn't spend $1 on those VMs. Anyone who's worked in a Scientology organization knows that by the time something happens near you, or there's some disaster and VMs are being sent out to someplace, everyone's running around asking for fresh donations because somebody needs to get somewhere. Scientology never just swoops in and says, we're funding everything, just tell us who's going and we'll book the travel. So people's donations to Scientology do not go to any volunteer minister activities, and y'all know it. That's one of those things where it's like, you're fooling yourselves. Scientologists know damn well IAS money doesn't go to the volunteer ministers, and yet they'll go to an event and David Miscavige will put on some video and announce how the IAS funded the latest volunteer minister thing. And you're essentially lying to yourself. You're letting yourself lie to you. It's a very strange thing. You're lying to yourselves. You guys already know that what he's saying isn't true, but you watch the video and you go, wow, that's amazing. It just speaks to the weird control that high control groups have over the thoughts and the faculties of their members. Thank you, Pamela, for the rest of that story. All right, let's see. Anon, how effective do you think getting an active Scientologist to read the book Barefaced Messiah to convince them Scientology is BS? I haven't read it myself. Thank you for the comment, Anon. Always good to see you in here. I actually think that if an active Scientologist did read the book, it would be very effective. The problem is they wouldn't read the book. It would be very hard to read that book and not believe it. Mainly because as a Scientologist, you're led to believe that that book is just the most hateful, vicious, evil character assassination of L. Ron Hubbard. And yet when I read that book, which was only a year or two ago, I couldn't believe how fair and generous and charitable that book was. I mean, in fact, my expectations for how bad that book was going to be were so high that I thought that book was actually pretty good. When I say good, I don't mean effective. I mean, the book was very complimentary of L. Ron Hubbard in many ways. It's almost like if Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard had not lied so much and for so long about L. Ron Hubbard's history, it's almost like Barefaced Messiah would be like a good story of his life. I mean, yes, he's a liar. He's a storyteller. He's a fraudster, but an incredibly successful one. I mean, it's amazing how much success in society one can have by being a charlatan, a liar, a fraudster, and a con man. And L. Ron Hubbard succeeded in many spheres of life, not just Scientology. He was really able to convince a lot of people. He was a really great guy, and he traveled in very, very high circles. And even when it came in, even the part of the Barefaced Messiah book that talked about Dianetics was incredibly fair. It wasn't even like Dianetics is a scam. The book actually concentrated a little bit on how much success Dianetics had and how much success people had with Dianetics. I was very pleasantly surprised how fair the book was, because it also means, this goes back to the point here, if a Scientologist were to read it, I think it would really have an impact. And that's why Scientology, the authorities in Scientology, go to such lengths to convince people it's a hateful book and it's full of suppression and squirrel information and all this kind of stuff. So thank you for the question, Anon. Annie Kurtz, love your puppy. You know, it's crazy. He does still look like a puppy, even though he's 10 years old. All right, let's see. What is this? Alexandra Sandu. This is rather trivial and actually not worth the time, but did you watch that video about you that Marc pointed out the other week? Alexandra, I actually did. This is a video by, I don't remember the name of the channel. It's got a weird name, like something Thor or something. And it's like, Aaron Smith-Levin has gotten rich off of Scientology is something like the name of the video. And it talks about me making millions of dollars. And it talks about how wealthy I am. And it makes me wonder, like, where does this guy even get his information from? Because there's so much of that video that I want to say it's just straight up made up. But I don't want to say it's made up because I doubt he's personally making it up. I get the sense he has read or watched or listened to something that someone else made up. I don't know. It was weird. The guy was, first of all, he never shows his face in the video. It's one of these videos where the camera's just pointing at inanimate objects while he talks. And it was weird because the video wasn't exactly hateful either. It wasn't, you can tell the video wasn't produced by Scientology. Because it's not a very like mean or hateful video. It's just got so much incorrect information in it. And you go, what kind of guy would dedicate his time to spending an hour or so talking about someone he doesn't know, has never met, and is just riddled with false information and isn't like overwhelmingly good or bad. It's just wrong. Like it's just incorrect. And I watched the whole thing waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like where's the big attack going to come from? And it was weird. It was a strange video, Alexander, but I did watch it. I watched it on like 2x speed, fast forwarding here and there, trying to get to the good parts. You know, I figured there must have been some actual purpose for this video, but There just wasn't. So thank you, Alexandra. I appreciate it. Okay, let's see here. We have Lisa Marchbanks. Hi, Lisa. If OT8 lets one see the truth of his existence and is the first OT level that brings about a resurgence of power and native abilities for the being himself, then OT9 should be about utilizing those powers and abilities, right? So that would be logical, Lisa. Now, OT8 doesn't actually claim to be, quote, the first OT level that brings about a resurgence of power and native abilities for the being himself. I've never heard OT8 described that way. It's not described that way on the bridge itself. It's not described that way in the promo. What it is described as is the first real OT level. And the explanation for what that is supposed to mean is that up until OT7, you are told, even people who have not done the OT levels, people who are still lower level on the bridge, are told that OT 1 through 7 is what you call negative gain. So you are increasing your spiritual awareness and ability by removing things from the thetan. Now, you're not told that the things you're removing are body thetans, but that explanation will resonate with the Scientologist because at the lower levels of the bridge, you're removing engrams. And so it makes sense that whatever you're doing on the OT levels, you may not know what it is, but you're continuing to remove stuff. And you're told OT7 is the last negative gain level. And from OT8 on up, it's positive gain. So you're becoming more powerful by adding things to the thetan, which doesn't make sense as a concept. You can't add something to a thetan, really. So the concept is intentionally vague, but that's how it's described. OT8 is the first real OT level. OT 1 through 7 are called pre-OT levels, and OT8 is the first level that is positive gain, not negative gain. But it does. That's where they stop. They stop short. They stop there. They stop short of saying, and therefore it's the first level that brings about a resurgence in power and native abilities. I've just never seen it described that way, and so therefore it is not necessarily. It does not necessarily logically follow that OT 9 and 10 is the first level of utilizing those abilities. Yeah. So anyway, I hope that helps, Lisa. Miscavige really is in a pickle when it comes to OT 9 and 10, but I think he doesn't have anything to worry about. He's probably got at least another 20 years before the rest of the ideal orgs will be completed. And even then he'll say something like all the execs have to finish the OEC FEBC, or all the staff have to be fully hatted, or we need to open up an org in every state, or something. We need a new ship. We can't deliver OT 9 and 10. Well, yeah, because of course OT 9 and 10's got to be delivered on the ship, right? If you say that OT 8 has to be delivered on the ship, then how could you then say OT 9 and 10 doesn't have to be delivered on the ship? So they're probably going to need a new ship, and that'll probably cost $100 million, and they'll raise $1 billion before they spend the $100 million. And Miscavige will keep kicking that can down the road. Thank you for the super chat, Lisa. All right, Dave Owens. According to Scientology, do animals have body thetans? Thank you for that question, Dave. That comes up a lot, actually. Technically speaking, your garden variety Scientologist would probably say your animals have a GE or a genetic entity. A genetic entity is something that Hubbard tried to describe in the early books, some of the books coming after Science of Survival, I think. Did he even mention it in Science of Survival? I honestly can't remember. I can tell you this. One of the things in Scientology, not only that I just didn't believe, that honestly never made a shred of sense, is what L. Ron Hubbard said about this thing he called the genetic entity. It's supposed to be sort of a quasi-spiritual thing, a low-level spiritual entity that has guided the evolution of the human body throughout the eons. The genetic entity is supposed to be part of how the human jaw evolved from the hinge of a clam and all this weird shit, and that the genetic entity drives the life force of non-human objects. There are tons of other Scientologists who will tell you smart animals have thetans. I know tons of Scientologists who say dogs have thetans, dolphins have thetans. Basically, the cute animals have thetans and the ugly animals have GEs. I do not recall L. Ron Hubbard ever specifically saying that all animals have thetans or any animals have thetans. I don't actually remember him talking about thetans in animals at all, but I could just be totally missing it or forgetting it. But that's my answer, Dave. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let's see. Nancy Ives, regarding all the new videos on your hate site, Scientology must be freaking out. You catch the most fire when you're over the target. Keep doing what you do, Ron. Yeah, no, Scientology is absolutely freaking out. Miscavige is losing his shit. The people in OSA must be living miserable lives. The miserable existence of an OSA staff member right now is one that I do not envy. And it's probably all the more reason for us to continue to let the people in OSA know, if you want to leave Scientology, if you want to blow, if you want a plane ticket, if you want to get picked up on a street corner, if you want to be taken to a hotel, if you want to be taken to an airport, if you want to be taken to the police station or the local FBI office, the Aftermath Foundation can help you at the drop of a hat anywhere in the world at any time. So the harder David Miscavige makes life for the OSA people, hopefully more OSA people will ask for help escaping from the C organization. So we'll see. And that's why there really is nothing Scientology can do or say to any of us that would make us hesitate or second guess or stop or change anything that we're doing. There really isn't. They are the laughing stock of the world. They have become the butt of all jokes. And anything they do just gives us more things to discuss in our videos. And really, that's why I say Scientology, when it comes to this new media, they just have no idea what to do. There's nothing they can do. And all they can do is freak out and make mistakes and overreact. And if they really cross the line, they might give us actual reasons to do a lawsuit. But the chances of that are pretty low. It's just as effective and even more fun to just do what we're already doing. So thank you, Nancy, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see. The Aftermath Foundation website will not load for me. I will try again when I get home. Well, let me check it right now. The aftermathfoundation.org. Oh, no, it loads. So the website's good. So if you're having trouble loading it, try restarting your phone. But it's all good. Thank you, Nana, for the comment there. Camilla Jorshom Madsen, my dog would like you to buy a snack for Goliath. Well, thank you for the super chat. And Goliath thanks you for the super chat and the snack money. Goliath will definitely get a snack. We'll take him down to the ice cream store in Dunedin and get him a little doggy ice cream, which they give out there because Dunedin is such a dog-friendly city. What is the name of that? What is the name of that ice cream store? Everyone says it wrong. I can't believe I'm going to forget it. If anybody remembers the name of the famous ice cream store in Dunedin, Florida, that has a weird name that everybody gets wrong, throw it in the chat and I will say it. All right, let's see. What else do we have here? Nicola Burton. 3-hour live streams would be great, but Mike and Marc seem to get stressed with so many super chats. It's true. It's true. But I mean, the only reason they get stressed is because of the time crunch. And Mike doesn't like staying up really, really late. So for Mike, the only reason there's a time crunch is because it's late at night. You'll notice, I think it's one of the reasons you'll notice Marc and Claire, that's why they'll do really long live streams. They don't have the time crunch. They're also starting in an earlier time zone. Marc and Claire are 2 hours earlier than me and Mike. And I'm a night owl. I'd probably do Q&As until 3 o'clock in the morning if it wouldn't make me look like such a weirdo. But I mean, I routinely stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning. It's just a normal matter of course. I'm a night owl. I have a lot of energy at night. That's why it's unusual for me to get an early start in the day on my videos, is because, I mean, I'll sleep until 10 or 11. I try not to, because it's sort of healthier to be on a more normal schedule. But if it weren't for society and their normal schedule, I'd probably stay up until 4 or 5 every night. Thank you for the comment, Nicola. All right, let's see. Kiwi girl, Eleanor. I met a guy at a bar with a cool t-shirt with Scientology splashed across it with a pic of Xenu. It was such a great random chat of what we knew so far about Scientology. Was great. Oh, that's amazing. I almost have to assume that was either in Los Angeles or Clearwater. But if that occurred at a bar in just some, somewhat smaller city in the U.S. or even outside of the U.S., that story is even better. Thank you, Kiwi Girl, for the comment. Bean Sprout Mama, if Scientologists believe illness is pulled in, do they think famous Scientologists who die of cancer or other major illness had crimes? Thank you for the question, Bean Sprout Mama. So pulling something in isn't always having to be associated with crimes per se. You know, like an overt in Scientology is sort of the Scientology version of the word sin. And overt just means something that's unethical or non-survival. And it doesn't have to do, it's not the same thing as a crime. And so when you hear people talk about pulling something in, that is in relation to overts. But you can have overts of omission or commission. And now, of course, crimes are overts usually, but not all overts are crimes. So an overt could be failing to help a friend who needed it. That could be an overt. And, you know, that could, you know, spiritually speaking, if you're a Scientologist, you could think that that type of overt could cause you to pull in a motivator, or, you know, that's the Scientology speak for you commit a bad act, and then the bad thing that happens to you in response is a motivator. This actually gets twisted around sometimes in Scientology, because strictly speaking, a motivator is something that happens to you that then prompts you to commit an overact. The motivator technically is supposed to come first, but in Scientology parlance, it's sort of morphed into you commit an over and then you pull in a motivator. I guess it's just sort of a chicken and the egg problem. What really comes first, the overt or the motivator? But an overt is a bad thing that you do, and a motivator is a bad thing that happens to you. So when you talk about, you mentioned cancer here. So I know that sort of colloquially speaking, you'll hear former Scientologists say that no matter what happens to you, you pulled it in. And then that gets very easily equated with everything that happens to you is your fault. It's a bit of an oversimplification if you're really getting into the details. Cancer, for example, there's one place where L. Ron Hubbard says that cancer, the cause of cancer is some, and I'm going to get this wrong because I can't remember if he said a loss. He said some major loss on the second dynamic on the whole track. So I'm pretty sure I have that right. Any of you experts in the chat, please feel free to correct me. So it would be like, let's say, I don't know, let's say 1 billion years ago in a galaxy far, far away, someone you were madly in love with and married to for 50 years was hit by a train right in front of you. That would be a major loss. On the second dynamic is family. That would be a major loss on the second dynamic on the whole track. And if something like that is restimulated and not properly addressed, L. Ron Hubbard said that is one of the causes of cancer. Now, you could probably jump through hoops and figure out how that means you pulled it in. It doesn't always mean you do bad thing happened to you. Oftentimes that's how Scientologists think, but it's not always like that. Now, when you have a famous Scientologist who's also high up on the bridge and they die of cancer, there's all sorts of rationalizations that enter in for why that would have occurred. Usually Scientologists will explain it away with bad auditing, or going PTS, going the effect of suppression. And you're like, well, once you're up on the bridge, aren't you supposed to become more impervious to suppression? Yeah, you are. But, you know, Scientologists explain these things away and rationalize these things in a million different ways. And L. Ron Hubbard baked so many contradictions in to the different levels of the tech that it's pretty easy to rationalize away things. But I can tell you, when Kelly Preston dies of cancer or Kirstie Alley dies of cancer, no one's actually thinking, oh boy, they must have had crimes. That's not actually what they're thinking. And there are some people who will just go, bodies are bodies. Thetans are thetans. Bodies die. Bodies are subject to radiation and mutations. And who cares if the body dies? You're just going to pick up a new body anyway. So there's that as well. They'll go, well, L. Ron Hubbard never said that Scientology made your body like, you know, impervious to everything. And at some level, who cares? They're probably like, Kirstie Alley probably didn't like her body anymore, so she just willing to drop it. You know, she just couldn't figure out how to lose that 150 pounds she'd been trying to lose with Jenny Craig. So maybe she decided she needed a new young body. Maybe it was causative. That's the other thing. Scientologists might pull that one. Well, they could have handled the cancer if they wanted to, but they just didn't. So they'd rather drop their body and pick up a new one. There's a million ways you can rationalize all of these things away. Excellent question. I appreciate that. ABV, did you catch John Oliver saying timeshares were almost as hard to get out of as Scientology last Sunday on Last Week Tonight? ABV, not only did I see it, not only did about 200 people email me the clip, but I actually edited that clip into a YouTube short and published it on my channel. So if you pull up my channel and you go to the videos tab, or maybe there's a shorts tab. Some platforms, those tabs are separate. Some platforms, they're the same. You will see the short that I did of John Oliver making his joke. It was really funny. John Oliver has a history of making Shelley Miscavige jokes and Scientology jokes, and he does a really good job of it. All right, Pamela Crawford again. I was lucky I moved out of Paradise a year before. I lived there for 33 years. I moved down the hill from Paradise. Pam, I'm not familiar with this horrible incident in this fire, but did the entire city burn down because of a Walmart fire? Is that really something that occurred? That's incredible. All right, let's see. Here's a comment about the e-meter stuff. My hands sweat in contact with things or other people. Sorry. Oh yeah. No, anyone who's holding the e-meter cans knows that their hands get sweaty. No question about that. But do they sweat and unsweat? Like if you're an hour into an auditing session and you've been holding those cans for an hour, your hands are sweaty. And when you ask a question and the e-meter reads, it's not because your hand just sweated a little extra and then unsweated. I mean, that's coming just from my personal observation and experience. I know there's a lot of people who have a lot of opinions on this, but I'm sorry, unless you have experience with the e-meter itself, it's hard to really have an informed opinion about it. And I know the e-meter is not necessarily a special type of a device. It's a potentiometer. It's a variable resistor. It is, what's the other word for it? There's another word for it that's just slipping my mind. I know there's many e-meters that operate exactly like the e-meter. So it's not like you have to be an expert in the actual Scientology version of this machine. You could be an expert in other machines like it. Lie detectors. A lie detector, an e-meter is almost like 1/3 of a lie detector. And anyway, I wasn't saying that sweat doesn't have an effect on the e-meter, but sweat is not the reason the e-meter reads. Sweat does affect the settings on the e-meter, and it does affect the resistance, and it affects the tone arm. It doesn't, that the best I can tell, there's a difference between how the e-meter is reading right now and a read on the e-meter. And I don't want to get into an e-meter discussion here, but yeah, I don't want to get into e-meter discussion. Anyway, thank you for that comment. Oh my God, more about Paradise. I know a guy who lived in Paradise with family. Everything, house around him was melted to nothing. His house was untouched. Only his car got melted a little. Hollywood bought the car for a movie on this. Wow, this is incredible. We have a lot of people who know about this Paradise fire. Incredible that his car would have melted, but his house would have survived. That's really remarkable and good for him. Thank you for the comment, Annie. Okay, Jude Morrow. How under the radars react to LRH being full of fecal matter? Do they become defensive? Also, when they learn of Wee Dave being an evil little wart, surely they save face. The process is fascinating. So under the radar, I guess can mean a couple different things. So many people are under the radar. They already think Scientology is bullshit. L. Ron Hubbard is full of shit. David Miscavige is just an agent of L. Ron Hubbard who's full of shit. And they're just not speaking up publicly because they don't want their family members to have to disconnect from them. Sometimes this is for familial concerns. Sometimes it's for business concerns. I guess your question to these people, for the most part, I think would not become defensive at the idea of someone saying that LRH is full of shit because they already believe that. They're just not wanting to get disconnected from their business contacts and their personal contacts. When they learn of Wee Dave being an evil wart. Oh, I'll tell you this. For people who are under the radar in Scientology, it's much easier for them to conclude that there's something terribly wrong with David Miscavige than there is to conclude that something is wrong with L. Ron Hubbard. So discarding a belief in David Miscavige as being anything special comes first. And then realizing that LRH was a special kind of messed up comes later. And how people progress along the line to those various conclusions is very fascinating. And I come in contact with with people on every step of that spectrum. It's funny. I remember when I first started learning about the stuff Miscavige was doing and how horrible it was and everything. And I was already in my own, on my own journey through that path I just mentioned. And I spoke to a friend of mine, actually named Jeff Pearlman, who a lot of people in the Scientology world will know. And he started talking to me about how L. Ron Hubbard was such a con man. And I actually remember either saying aloud or thinking to myself, oh, I didn't even realize that was an option. Oh, I didn't realize that conclusion was even on the table. Oh, it's very strange. Very strange how the mind works coming out of these cults. Thank you, Jude. Hey, Honig. Marylin Honig. Hey, Ron. Here's $10 for pronouncing my last name correctly. It actually means honey in German. P.S. Yes, it's crochet. Thanks for this daytime live. Love it. Well, good. I'm glad I'm pronouncing it correctly. Somebody's got to pronounce these names correctly. Thank you, Marylin. Much appreciated. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to find ones that aren't just super chats, but here's one. Austin Org grand opening, April 15th. Saw it on Reddit. I had, Austin. Okay. Yeah. I read Austin, but I was thinking Chicago. I've seen some whispers about this and I just don't know. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people hanging out nearby to see what's going on April 15th to see if they actually are opening. But David Miscavige at the New Year's Eve event said that three or four, we'll say three just to be charitable, 3 ideal orgs would be opened in the first quarter of 2023. The first quarter of 2023 is going to be up like in 2 days. 0 ideal orgs opened. It is incredible that Miscavige continues to convince Scientologists that Scientology is expanding, not only expanding, but expanding exponentially, and is the fastest growing religious movement on earth. When his target attainment is 0%. And the reason they can't open these orgs is they don't have enough staff members. And the reason they don't have enough staff members is because they don't have enough public Scientologists to recruit from. And the reason they don't have enough public Scientologists to recruit from is because there's only about 25 to 30,000 Scientologists in the entire world. And probably only half of that number are actually on service regularly. And yet he's still able to convince these people that Scientology is growing and their donations help it grow even faster. And therefore you should donate more and more and more. So we'll see. We'll see if Austin opens up. We'll see if Chicago opens up. And don't be surprised if it doesn't. Don't be surprised if it doesn't. All right. Patricia Lynn, yay, caught you live. Love your channel, Aaron. Thanks for all you do. Well, thank you. Welcome to your first live. And yeah, glad to have you here. It's one of the reasons I used to feel like it was possible to do a live too often. I think when people start doing videos online, it takes a while to realize that even if you're speaking to people on your video, you're essentially speaking into the void because the internet is so big and there are so many people on YouTube, hundreds of millions of people, that you could say the same thing over and over and over again. And you are, in essence, going to be speaking to different people each time. Even though, of course, there will be some people that you are speaking to time and time again, because they do, in fact, watch all your stuff or a lot of it. But for the most part, when you're saying anything in any video online, I think it's safe to assume you're practically speaking to a brand new audience every single time. And that's why I enjoy doing the live Q&As, even if I end up answering some questions over and over and over again. You have to realize you're not really answering the same question again. It's a completely different question being asked by a completely new person who's never seen you before. So welcome, Patricia. Glad to have you here. All right, let me look for another non-super chat. Why are thetans filled with lies and then sent to a host body? Why are thetans filled with lies? Okay. In Scientology, they believe there are these things called implant stations. And implant stations are essentially little, I don't know how big they are because I've never seen one with my own thetan eyes, but they are essentially factories, little outposts on the far side of the moon, on Mars, on Venus, on whatever the hell L. Ron Hubbard said that day, that thetans have been pre-programmed to report to when their body dies. They report to these implant stations, and their thetan memories get wiped, and they get implanted with lies, according to L. Ron Hubbard. Lies such as Jesus Christ is the Son of God. This is why it's really insidious when Scientologists say you can be a Christian and be a Scientologist, or be a member of any other of the mainstream religions and be a Scientologist. Fundamentally speaking, L. Ron Hubbard says all of the religions are falsely implanted ideas that were implanted into our thetan DNA by these implant stations that are operated by the evil alien psychiatrists. I'm not making any of this up. This is 100% what Scientologists believe. And so the reason we are implanted, according to L. Ron Hubbard, with these lies and shot into our bodies is because Earth is a prison planet, and our evil alien psychiatrist overlords have determined that the best way to keep us imprisoned on this planet is to keep us ignorant of our true nature and our true powers, and to keep us occupied by all these false beliefs that they've given us. It causes us to think you only live one life, and that, Earth is the only place where there is life, and all this kind of stuff. So I'm not sure if that's actually what you meant with this question, but that's how I'm going to answer it. So thank you for the question, Purple Groovy 69. All right, Joel McCoy. The Aftermath Foundation is there for those who need it, but they have to want it. We will try our best to get him to make the right choice. Oh, it sounds like somebody might have been asking whether Scientology will help somebody choose, whether the Aftermath Foundation will help somebody to choose to leave Scientology. And the answer to that question would be no. We do not pressure people. We do not try to convince people to leave Scientology. That's a really losing game. Also, there's consequences for leaving Scientology. And whereas all of us in the real world believe those consequences are still net positive at the end of the day, no matter how much pain and destruction you might have to go through leaving Scientology, you're better off at the other end of that process. Convincing someone, or, trying to hard sell someone to make that decision, or trying to twist someone's arm to make that decision, or to pressure them in any way, I think it's just a little unethical personally. I think people have to make that choice for themselves. And so the Aftermath Foundation has refused to get involved in any requests to actually convince people to leave Scientology. Now, I have, on a personal level, advised some people who wanted to help get a friend, family, or associate out of Scientology. And I have given people tips on what to do, with the caveat that it has very little chance of working. And some of those cases have actually worked, but we very clearly have said the foundation will have nothing to do with that. And that we'll just focus on our strength, which is providing any help needed to anyone who is already determined to leave Scientology and just needs help making that happen. Thank you for the comment, Joel McCoy. Sherry Wright. Worked in Clearwater in 2004, passed by Flag daily, never heard of this cult before then, saw the hypnosis in Sea Org people. Be aware this cult is not the only ones using hypnosis to control people. Yeah, Sherry, the Sea Org members walking around Flag do look hypnotized. They do look like they're in a trance. They don't do themselves any favors by walking down the street very stiffly and in a hurry without smiling and without making contact with anyone. It makes them look like robots. And yeah, I mean, Ron bots is a term I've heard people use to refer to Scientologists. Ron bots, and there's something very aptly descriptive about that. I know there there's probably some sort of a hypnotic effect to the repetitive nature of auditing commands and the repetitive nature of Scientology's communication training drills called the TRs. I'm not familiar with any actual research about how these things induce a light hypnosis, but I mean, even L. Ron Hubbard in Dianetics talked about the risk of Dianetics auditing having a hypnotic effect, and L. Ron Hubbard himself. Oh, this is one of the things that was in the book Barefaced Messiah that I said was actually incredibly generous to L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard was apparently an expert hypnotist. That's according to himself and according to a lot of other people who were friends with him way before the Scientology days. And the stories in the book about that specifically were absolutely remarkable. Thank you for the comment, Sherry. All right, let me see how far. I am currently about almost 30 minutes behind the chat that I'm looking at. So let me jump ahead a little bit here. Okay, love it. LRH was so bleh. The teeth, the mouth, the voice. How was that not a factor in deterring members? How do people overlook this? I also love your dog. Thank you for the super chat. Love it. I was in Scientology for an awful lot of years before I ever saw a moving video of L. Ron Hubbard. And when I first saw the moving video, I was like, oh, damn. I didn't know that's what we were working with. It was a surprise to me. The photos that get put out of L. Ron Hubbard by Scientology are are highly selective and highly photoshopped and touched up. It's weird. The photos of L. Ron Hubbard as a young man are actually pretty good looking photos. The photos of him when he got older, the ones that Scientology selectively uses are actually still pretty good photos. But man, there's some of like the natural, untouched, raw photos are like, God damn, how did anybody put up with this guy? How did anybody ever share a space with this guy and those teeth? I mean, what in the world? I mean, I know he tried to adopt British society, but I don't think he had to go that British. Sorry, that's common about British people and their teeth. So yeah. But love it. Like I wasn't there. So I can't really speak on behalf of the people who were there on. Did he always look horrid? Like there's one interview where he's giving the interview at St. Hill. I actually published the entire thing on my channel, and he's sitting at a desk and there's a guy pretending to be a journalist, but he's actually a Scientologist, and he's interviewing L. Ron Hubbard. And every now and then in the middle of answering a question, L. Ron Hubbard will like push his seat back and stand up and walk over to the wall and like just lean on the wall and be like, this is just something I do when I'm answering questions. I lean against the wall. And then he walked around to the front of the desk and sat on the desk, like right in front of the guy. And I'm thinking, this is all so weird and off-putting. And I said I wasn't there, so I wouldn't know how to answer those questions. But but I did get to a point where I eventually saw moving images of L. Ron Hubbard, and my first response was, yikes. And I managed to just explain it away and just go, I don't know. What am I going to do? Leave Scientology because the guy looks weird? I mean, once you're in, you're kind of in, and it's easy to explain away a lot of things. I mean, the guy having bad teeth and weird lips and a gross smile. Maybe that is something that chased some people away, but clearly it wasn't enough to shut the whole operation down. And I guess anybody who had personal interaction with L. Ron Hubbard would probably have to give their own personal response to that. Like Janice Grady. God, I still have not published my interview with Janice Grady. I've got to get that done. She personally worked with L. Ron Hubbard for like 12, 14 years or something like that, and worked with him in a very close, personal way. And but that's a question I haven't asked. I didn't ask her in her interview, but the next time I chat with her, I will ask her that. What was the deal with the teeth and the mouth and the lips and all that weirdness? And but I guarantee you she's going to give you a similar answer to me. Like, I don't know, eventually it just sort of became the way that it was. Thank you for the question. Love it. All right, jumping forward a bit here. Nasty Nathaniel. I've heard about how the bike guards at the PAC base will chase and physically restrain SO members trying to blow. How about doing a video about this? So thank you for the comment, Nate. To do a video about that, I would probably have to talk to a specific person who experienced that. I would say that people like Odo and Roy and Parker, some of those bike guards, they would definitely follow someone on their bike, but it's very hard to restrain somebody when you're on a bicycle. Like, I'd say it's almost impossible. And so look, you said chase and physically restrain. Not only would it be incredibly difficult to physically restrain somebody on a bike, but it also is going to look like assault and it's going to look like an abduction. And the idea of doing that on Sunset Boulevard is very risky and probably something those bike guards would avoid at all costs. So in order to do an actual video about that, though, it would have to be an interview with either someone that worked in security, discussing about how they were instructed to handle circumstances like that, or a discussion with someone who had that done to them. And then that would be an interesting conversation. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat, Nate. Always good to see you in here, of course. All right. Panko. Oh my goodness. $20 super sticker. How generous. Throw a question there next time, Panko. Happy to answer a question. Thank you for that. ML Henricks. Did L. Ron Hubbard start writing OT9 before he passed? Well, here's the thing. Nobody can say what he started. We can only say what he never finished. And what he never finished, he never left anything behind in any of his works. And there was extensive written works left behind by L. Ron Hubbard. None of them contained any notes whatsoever about OT 9, 10 or above. Just nothing. And the fact when David Miscavige found out that Pat Broker, who claimed to be in possession of L. Ron Hubbard's unreleased upper OT levels, when David Miscavige, orchestrated a raid of the facilities that Pat Broker had all of L. Ron Hubbard's stuff at, and they went through every scrap of paper in every file and determined there was nothing about the OT levels. It is that very fact that allowed David Miscavige to get rid of Pat Broker and take over control of Scientology himself. Because Pat Broker and his wife Annie Broker were the two people who were supposed to take over Scientology after L. Ron Hubbard died. Pat and Annie were the ones who were supposed to select which Scientology executives were going to form the new executive management structure of Scientology. And so, I said, we can't say what he did. We can just say what he didn't leave behind. Maybe some of the gibberish and the writings L. Ron Hubbard left behind were intended to have something to do with OT 9 and 10, but it was so gibberishy and incomprehensible and unorganized that nobody has any idea what's supposed to be on OT 9 and 10. Not Ray Midoff, not David Miscavige, not Pat Broker, not Norman Starkey, absolutely nobody. Thank you for the super chat, ML Henricks. All right, let's find some more. Jennifer Vick. What do you mean when you call someone a 2.5% SP? Jennifer, great question. I was actually just thinking about this morning. L. Ron Hubbard said that SP is a word that's thrown around in Scientology. It means suppressive person. L. Ron Hubbard says that essentially 20% of the population acts like suppressive persons, but only 2.5% of those SPs are truly dangerous. But I was just thinking about this today, that he doesn't actually define what the difference is between a 2.5%er SP and your regular garden variety SP. Because technically, if you're not the SP, then you're supposed to be PTS. PTS is potential trouble source. Potential trouble source is somebody who's connected to an SP. Now, L. Ron Hubbard did talk about, just generally in his Scientology writings, this idea of switching valences, switching personalities, that you can go from being PTS to adopting the valence of the SP and basically becoming an SP. And I guess what L. Ron Hubbard probably means there is 17.5% of SPs were turned into SPs by just being too close to doing two SPs. They started out as PTS and then they did a valence swap and now they're in the valence of the SP. But you could probably get that person to stop being such an SP. And that 2.5% of the population are truly dangerous SPs who were sort of created that way. Now, I realize in Scientology speak, no Thetan is created as an SP. L. Ron Hubbard provided what he said was the technical definition of an SP, which is someone who's stuck in an incident, a moment long time ago on their whole track, where they were completely, near totally overwhelmed. So, you know, they were basically being suppressed. It was a massive engram, a massive moment of pain and unconsciousness for this being, and that they are stuck in that incident, and everything in their present time environment serves as a stimulator for that incident. So every person on earth, every being in existence, every human being to them represents whatever beings were involved in almost completely overwhelming that Thetan eons ago. And therefore, they are afraid of anyone in the present time environment getting better, becoming more aware, becoming more able, becoming successful. And so they automatically and always seek to overtly or covertly undermine and destroy everyone in their environment. Not because they're natively a bad being, but because they're stuck in this incident from long ago. And it results in them acting very destructively and dangerously. So I think what L. Ron Hubbard probably meant is that 2.5% of the population are that definition of an SP, where they are operating in a way where they're stuck in this long ago incident where they were almost completely destroyed, and therefore they feel the need to destroy everyone around them. And the remaining 17.5% are acting the way that they do because they're imitating the behavior of the truly dangerous 2.5%. So yeah, a 2.5%er is a phrase Scientologists will use as a Hitler. A Hitler would be a 2.5%er. Mao would be a 2.5%er. Stalin would be a 2.5%er. I would probably just be a 17.5%er because I'm just someone who talks shit on the internet, and I'm not like, you know, euthanizing populations and stuff like that. So isn't it funny how I started out that question saying I'm not sure what the difference really is, and then I came up with the difference. So that's probably a nice little exercise on how Scientologists can pretty easily make sense of shit L. Ron Hubbard said, even though he didn't. He wasn't crystal clear about it. Thank you for the questioner, Jennifer. Vince and Giggles. What do you think it will take for Baby Miscavige to jump that sinking ship of Scientology like the rat that he is? It would take nothing short of an actual criminal indictment against him personally. And then Miscavige would do some version of jumping the sinking ship, although I don't know what that would look like. Mike Rinder is pretty confident that David Miscavige will never voluntarily relinquish control of Scientology. He might go into hiding. He might do a lot of things. But I think when you say jump the sinking ship, you actually mean like absconding to some far off land with a bunch of money and disappearing and just ghosting everybody, and someone else has to take over Scientology. I don't think he jumps ship that way. And I'm just going by what Mike Rinder says. And I think what Mike says about that sounds totally legit to me. His opinion on that. I agree with his opinion on that, but he might have to pull an L. Ron Hubbard and go into seclusion and do something. Because I don't think Miscavige would willingly show up in court for a criminal trial. That's my personal opinion. Thank you, Vince and Giggles. All right, moving along here. Let me see if I can find a non-super chat question. So many. So many of these are comments, and I'm looking for actual questions. All right. Well, here's another super chat. I look, guys. Hey, Aaron, doing EU-friendly streams. Got to go back to church immediately. Greetings from Austria. Hello, Fabian. Always good to see you in here. And yeah, so I realized actually EU, you know, we had a time change recently, and I don't know. Do you guys in the EU do your time changes like we do in the States? I don't even know. But I noticed that you guys are even more. You guys are an hour ahead. You guys are even 1 hour extra ahead. I can't figure out the right way to create the sentence structure on this. However many hours I thought you guys were ahead, you're an extra hour ahead. So I thought I was doing this stream at like 6, 7 o'clock your time, maybe 8 o'clock. It was actually 9 o'clock p.m. London time that I started this stream. And that was later than that was later than I was hoping. But hey, I usually start at 7 or 8 p.m. So there's that. Another Fabian and deal. Suggestion, interviewing an indie Scientologist. They are SPs too. You know, I think it would be interesting to interview an independent Scientologist. My only concern with that is I'm worried that the interview would be too harsh. Like, well, I feel like a little bit of a hypocrite to bring somebody on my channel just to interview them and give them a hard time and call bullshit on the stuff that they say. Like, to me, that's not like a really valid purpose for an interview. I tend to only want to interview people whose opinions I'm actually interested in. And see, I already sound like I'm insulting them, right? Why? Because so it sounds like I'm saying I'm not interested in the opinion of an independent Scientologist. And you go, well, that's harsh. Why would you say that? Because I already know what it means to believe in Scientology. I'm not actually that curious to understand why you would leave the Church of Scientology and still believe in Scientology. You still believe in Scientology the way we all did. You just think David Miscavige is terrible. I'm like, that's not interesting to me. So why would I want to interview that person? And yet I could get into a headspace where there's probably an interesting conversation that I would have with an independent Scientologist. So I'm open to it. I'm just worried that I'm going to very easily and quickly in that interview slip into kind of insulting them for still being a moron. See, I mean, I'm already, doesn't it sound like I would pretty easily slip into like, what's wrong with you? How could you still believe this? How could you still believe that? I mean, it would be sort of if I just interviewed a Christian so I could tell them how ridiculous I thought their belief in heaven was. Like, why bother? That's just being a dick. Like, who cares? It's not the purpose of my channel either. And so the purpose of my channel isn't to either promote independent Scientology or tell them they're all a bunch of idiots. I don't particularly care. I don't find it particularly interesting. And anyway, you get the idea. You just from everything I'm saying, you can probably get the idea why I'm a little hesitant to interview an independent Scientologist. I'm not totally against it though. What I do hesitate to do is then like reach out to someone and say, I would love to interview you, and then bring them on my channel and be a dick to them. I don't want to do that. But if there is an independent Scientologist out there who, already knowing that I have some concerns about how the interview will go, wants to discuss it with me, that would be a much easier interview to put together. Because then if I end up, pushing back on what they say a little too much, at least it's like, hey, I'm not the one who asked you to come on here. You wanted to come on here. So you got to be willing to take a little bit of fire. That would be interesting. And I would do that. Thank you, Fabian. Meredith the Goat. I guess you could say there was trouble in paradise. Ooh. It does seem like there was trouble in paradise. Thank you, Meredith the Goat. Ragdoll Ralph. Do you have a favorite whiskey? I love Ardbeg 10. Thank you for the super chat question. It's hard to really pick one. So generally speaking, I kind of stick with Macallan. Macallan 15 usually. It's an expensive whiskey, but if you're gonna drink whiskey, like I don't, sip it to enjoy it. It's not like we're guzzling this stuff. I really do like flavored whiskeys. I had a banana flavored whiskey. A banana flavored whiskey recently. That was awesome. Peanut butter flavored whiskey. I know it sounds like to a whiskey purist, this probably sounds terrible. I love flavors. Chocolate flavored stuff, peanut butter flavored stuff, honey flavored stuff, and banana flavored stuff. Love it, love it, love it. I mean, if they had like, what's that hazelnut spread? Nutella. If they had a Nutella flavored whiskey, I'd be all about that. But I really hardly drink it anymore because I don't know. I'm getting older. It's hard. It's harder. It's harder. The body just doesn't love it that much anymore. Thank you, Ragdoll Ralph. Let's see. Jacob Harkey, did you get recognized by any fans on the cruise? Thank you, Jacob. So for anyone who doesn't know, we went on my family, the Rinder family, the Headley family, and some other families went on Harmony of the Seas. Leaving out of Miami, we went to St. Thomas, St. Martin's, and Coco Cay. And yes, we did get recognized by some fans, mostly Mike Rinder, and mostly from the TV show. But yes, there were some YouTube fans as well on the ship, and that's always very, very cool. And we had a great time. In fact, with some of the fans, one of the families was in the chat on one of these live streams the night before we left, and said that their family was going to be on the cruise. We did end up meeting up with that family, and we played Cards Against Humanity for hours, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you, Jacob. Okay, let's see. Amanda Martin, what's your best guess on the timeline of Scientology implosion? Thank you for the question, Amanda. So I define Scientology implosion as a revocation of their tax-exempt status. And I'm going to say that I optimistically believe that will happen within 10 years. If you said it was going to be 20 years, I'd probably go, all right. But I think there's no way 20 years from now they still have tax-exempt status. I think 15 years from now they probably don't have tax-exempt status, which is why I say optimistically 10. And yeah, I think these guys get prosecuted for financial crimes, not necessarily the crimes against children, not necessarily the trafficking crimes. I think what opens the door to them having their tax-exempt status revoked is the widespread credit card fraud, might even qualify as money laundering, wire fraud. And I think the government eventually takes them down using RICO, the same stuff they used to take down the mafia. So that's my opinion. And thank you for the question. Ken's channel. Ken, always good to see you in here. On Quora, a Scientologist was in full belief Hubbard was some cryptography intelligence expert and graduate of George Washington University, when none of that is correct. Is that a typical belief? Thank you for the super chat, Ken. Yes, that is a very typical belief. In fact, even some of the stuff about L. Ron Hubbard and Aleister Crowley and Jack Parsons, Scientologists believe that the government sent him in undercover to help spy and break up some of the goings on in that organization. And that the reason L. Ron Hubbard's military files don't indicate that is the case is because it was super secret and confidential. Even Tommy Davis, who was Scientology spokesperson for a little while, I think said to Lawrence Wright, who wrote the Going Clear book, I think he said that L. Ron Hubbard's military files were sheep-dipped, which means falsified by the government to cover up his undercover secret agent work that he was actually doing for the government. Basically, Scientology likes to make stories that are unfalsifiable. And Scientologists absolutely fall for that shit. Thank you, Ken. Harrison, yo, what's good, my boy AA Ron? Well, what's good, Harrison? What's good in the hood? Just chilling, doing a Q&A. The Midnight Show. AA Ron, do you think David Miscavige is going to have to make up OT 9 and 10 if the time ever comes to release them? Did you lose your sense of humor when in Scientology? Love your channel. Thank you for the super chat, Midnight Show. Some way, somehow, David Miscavige is going to have to come up with OT 9 and 10. And Mike Rinder has actually said he doesn't think it will be that hard for Miscavige to come up with something. I have explained why, if you're just thinking about all this logically, it would be almost impossible. But then Mike says, you're giving Scientologists way too much credit. It doesn't have to make sense. I mean, none of this shit has to make sense. Scientologists will rationalize away or explain to themselves, explain away anything David Miscavige tells them, as long as he convinces them it came from L. Ron Hubbard. And I think that's true. I do think that the mystery of OT 9 and 10 is better for David Miscavige than anything he could make in reality. The mystery has worked for David Miscavige for the last 30 whatever years it's been. Once he comes out with something, he has to deal with the disappointment. I still feel there's no way he could come out with anything that would meet the expectations that have been built up in people's minds. But yet the follow-on argument would be true. There's nothing he could put out that would meet the expectations. And yet even falling short of the expectations, he will still be able to convince 80% of the people that it's good enough. And that's probably true as well. The mystery of OT 9 and 10 has been an amazing fundraising tool for David Miscavige. When he releases OT 9 and 10, not only does that fundraising ability go away, or his ability to use those things as a fundraising carrot go away. But now he has to deal with the fallout of the dissatisfaction with what people have waited 30 plus years for. I think these factors are why David Miscavige keeps kicking the can down the road. It is quite possible, if not likely, that eventually he will have to come up with something. And I agree with Mike that when he comes to terms with the fact that he can't kick that can down the road anymore, it probably won't be that difficult for him to come up with something. I think it will just be difficult to come up with something that truly lives up to expectations. That doesn't mean he won't come up with something. And Mike's even given some ideas of what that something could be. And I think we even hinted at a little competition that Marc Headley was going to run on his channel for submissions for what OT 9 and 10 could be. And I don't remember, we sort of kicked around with that. We sort of kicked that idea around on a live stream. And I think Marc liked the idea, but I don't think I've heard any follow-up on that idea. So thank you for that question. Here we go. Wow, 149,000 subs. I remember the live stream for hitting 100,000 subs. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that, because as I started this live stream, I was at 149,990 subs. I am now at 149,994 subs. So if 6 people watching this stream right now hits the subscribe button, I will be at 150,000. And it was November 3rd that I passed 100,000 subs. So in about 5 months, I went from 100,000 to 150,000. And if you ask me, that's pretty damn good. I'm quite happy with that. And I'm going to keep hitting refresh. Let's see. 4 of you hit subscribe. Can I get 2 more? So yeah, by the end of this stream, we'll be at 150. And actually, let me see if I can share. Let me see if I can do a screen share here. Hold on. Analytics. Live subscriber count. Let's go full screen. Yeah, this will be a little fun. Let's do this. We just did it. I wanted to go live while we did it, but we just did it. Hold on. Analytics. Bada boom. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. We did it. We got him. You know, StreamYard is actually giving me a new way to share screen that I've never experimented with before. Let me try something really quick, you guys. I'll move it up here. Can I move it up here? You guys can't see what I'm doing, but anyway, custom layout 1, save. Okay, there you guys. 150. We did it. We made 150. That's pretty cool, you guys. That's pretty cool. I'll tell you, when I hit 50, I thought that's the most it could go. When I hit 75, I was like, we've probably saturated the Scientology market here. Couldn't possibly go more than that. And then when it hit 100, I was like, I'll probably just be at 100 forever, right? And I just continue to get 2 or 3 new 100 subscribers every day. And of course, you know, if I do a video that happens to like get 1 million views, the subscribers might go up to 800, 900 a day, 1,000 a day sometimes. But usually they're at about 200 new subscribers a day. You know, even when I went on the Lex Fridman podcast, that only got me like an extra 1,500 subscribers that I wouldn't already have gotten otherwise. And I think that's partially because I already kind of reach a pretty big audience with my videos. I mean, I'm already getting about 4 million views per month on my videos. And every time I put out a video, it's going to a slightly different audience. YouTube has its algorithm. It figures out who to push videos out to. But even Lex Fridman, on a big channel that he has, when it comes to monthly views, he's still only getting about 4 to 5 times more views per month than I am. So even on a massive platform like that, I'm still already getting, compared to my own platform is already getting an awful lot of organic exposure and is growing at a rate that, to the best that I can tell, is quite above average for this type of channel. So I don't know. That's it's nice. It's good to see that continuing to grow. YouTube doesn't give me any extra special acknowledgement until I get to 1 million. So this gray plaque back there is what YouTube sends you when you get 100,000 subscribers. They don't send you another plaque until you hit 1 million, and that's going to be way down the road, if ever. So that's why I don't really just pay that much attention to subscribers these days, because it's like, on some level, who cares, right? But it is nice to see it going up, and yeah. So thanks for pointing that out. And we did it, guys. 150,000, and now we're at 150,008. All right, next question here. Next super chat. Sea Smog, $10 to help refund you for like 30 seconds of an auditing session. Love what you do. Thank you for the super chat. They say staff members and Sea Org members get their Scientology for free, but I'll tell you, when I left the Sea Org at the age of 26, after having worked for them from the age of 12 years old, they handed me a bill for $40,000, which I paid. Can you believe that? It was actually for much, much more than $40,000. But between my bill and my wife's bill, they gave us a special buy now. If you give us this much money, we'll settle your entire bill. Can you imagine? You've worked for Scientology from the age of 12 to the age of 26, making $50 a week on average. And when it comes time to leave, you owe them money. This is the kind of stuff the courts have to take into consideration when determining whether the agreements former Scientologists sign as they're leaving the Sea Org are signed under duress. The courts do not seem to be ready to understand the type of duress that is in play when cults like Scientology and others have people sign legal documents, even swearing as they sign them that they're not under duress and are happy to sign them. And yet the factors of duress are still in play. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to find some good questions that are not super chats. I promise you, as I see them, I will select them. Matthew, always good to see you in here, Matthew. Actually, British people have less filling and less teeth removed than our American counterparts. Matthew, you're playing with statistics now. You can't claim that those stats matter when British people just don't go to the dentist in the first place now. Oh, I feel so bad being mean to British people. I absolutely love British people, but it is a funny stereotype that we have in America that British people have bad teeth. I don't even know if it's true. I just know that it's funny. And so, yeah, people ask me, why do I have such white teeth? Like they assume I never went to a dentist in Scientology. Why do I have such white teeth? After I left the Sea organization, I actually did Invisalign. It's not that I don't get my teeth whitened. I just get them cleaned all the time. In fact, I get my teeth cleaned all the time. That I took the next step, and I actually purchased a supply of the tooth polishing paste that they use at the dentist. You go to the dentist, they clean your teeth with the little scraper, and then they polish it up. I have my own supply of that polish, and that polish keeps teeth really white. Anyway, thank you for the super chat, Matthew. I appreciate it. Let's see. Only 1 out of 3 current viewers have hit like on this video. Sneak up on that button and press gently. Don't scare it away. Yeah, that's actually a one way that current viewers can really help the distribution of a video. You'll hear people on YouTube all the time say that they sign up for notifications on a channel, and yet for some reason they don't get the notifications. Nobody really understands how the YouTube algorithm works. All we have is our best guesses. My best guess is when YouTube sees what they call a lot of engagement on a video, they're like, hey, this video is getting a lot of engagement. Push out the notifications to a wider audience. One of the main methods of engagement with the video is hitting the like button. And the other main method of engagement is simply commenting in the live chat. So I believe if a majority of people watching the video smash the like button, I genuinely think YouTube starts pushing out notifications to more and more of the people who've asked for it, and maybe even some people who haven't even asked for it. I'm not sure. But if you guys also get really active in the live stream on the chats, that's another thing. I mean, in fact, that's actually a statistic that YouTube even keeps a stat for, and I can see it on the back end. On like a 3-hour live stream, it actually has a stat that it shows you of how many people commented per minute. And so the fact that they're even keeping that statistic makes me think the statistic has an important role to play in the YouTube algorithm itself. So that's a lot of words to say something very simple, which is, if you're watching this video, hit that like button. Thank you, everybody. Let's see, how far behind the chat am I right now? 4:17, 27, 37. Okay, I'm 28 minutes behind the chat, but that's okay, guys, because I'm not in any rush. If you've had a super chat, I'm gonna answer it. And if you've made a non-super chat, there's a chance, although let's be honest, a lesser chance that I'm going to answer it. So I'm not going anywhere, guys. I'm not in a rush. I'm on this thing until we're done. Okay, Heather Smith, the hypnotherapy process that many cults use is called neurolinguistic programming. Churches use this process too. Heather, that is so interesting. NLP is something I hear thrown around very often when I'm watching videos in the motivational sales training space. And I watch those videos mainly when I'm doing some research into Grant Cardone land. People like Jordan Belfort talk about NLP a lot. Grant Cardone actually doesn't like NLP, but that's because of Scientology. NLP is considered another practice. So it's funny that you're saying NLP is actually the tool cults like Scientology use to hypnotize people. If L. Ron Hubbard baked that into Scientology, Scientologists are not aware of it. Like I said, Scientologists aren't allowed to participate, at least not knowingly, in NLP. You'd probably find Scientologists engaging in some stuff that was based on NLP, but they didn't realize it. They didn't know it. And I myself don't actually know what it is. I'm only saying I hear the term when I'm listening to videos in the sales training motivational space, but I don't actually know what NLP is. And I kind of don't want to spend the time to find out. But now I might have to dig into a little bit to understand if there are parts of NLP that have been inserted into Scientology. Like, is NLP new? Like, I don't even know who created NLP. Was NLP around when L. Ron Hubbard created Dianetics? That would be really interesting to know. Thank you for that great super chat, Heather. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. Let's find something else. Strayhans. Yes. So I say Strayhans because to me, that seems to be the obvious way this thing is pronounced. Some people say Strachans. Some people say Strachans. And that's like is there another way? I say Strayhans. And I'm probably wrong, but I just love saying it that way. It's kind of like the first time I found out that Chipotle was pronounced Chipotle. I was like, that's not right. And I'm never going to say it that way. I always thought it was Chipotle. Wait, I always thought it was Chipotle. That makes me sound really stupid, right? I always thought it was Chipotle. And then someone's like, it's Chipotle. I'm like, no, it's not. And they're like, look where the T is and look where the L is. And I'm like, I'm never going to say it that way. But now I do say Chipotle. So for me, it's Strayhans. Even people who work there have told me nobody agrees on the right way to pronounce it. But yeah, Strayhans in Dunedin is where you can get some little doggy ice cream cones, and the dogs will walk up. They have a little window on the side of the place where they dish out the little doggy cones, and the dogs walk up to the window and they go up on the window and they give them the little ice cream. It's so freaking cute. And I'm not sure that it's like actually ice cream. It's like some special dog custard. But man, is it adorable. So go to Strayhans, everybody, the new sponsor of SPTV. Nah, just kidding. Not a sponsor. Okay, let's see. Unknown person. Are there any other ex-Scientologists you know that you have known even in Scientology? Oh, of course. Yeah. How have they changed before and after they left? Guys, I don't really see personality changes in people who are in Scientology and out of Scientology. It's just a matter of, do you believe it or do you not believe it? And you could say that, like, the behaviors that people have in Scientology, those are behaviors based on what they believe, but it's not like their entire personality changes. So what I mean is, like, if someone's in Scientology and they believe it, they're going to be they're going to be spying and ratting on their friends and their family. But I don't consider that a personality trait. That's just something you're doing because of what you believe. Then you leave Scientology and you're no longer ratting on and spying on your friends and your friends and your family. So even though you could say, oh, they totally changed now, they're not as judgmental, they're not, pretending that they're the moral authority, they're not, ratting you out to the ethics officer, you're like, I don't call that a personality change. I just call that you no longer believe that thing you believed. And so you're no longer doing the things that you were doing based on that belief. I mean, I have a lot of people that I know now who are out of Scientology, who I knew in Scientology. And I guess the way I'd like to say this is the good parts of the person who they were in Scientology are still the good parts of the person that they are now that they're out of Scientology. Great question, though. Thank you for that, UP. All right, let's see. Let's see. Scrolling. What you guys doing? Oh, Denver Steve-O. Let's talk cigars. What's your go-to? Any Cubans lately? Steve-O, what's hard about talking about Cuban cigars is you never really know if they're legitimate or not. And also, I got to be honest, the legitimate Cubans I've never really felt were any better than non-Cuban cigars. I feel like it's one of these things that scarcity has, made Cubans like this legendary mythic thing that is supposed to be fantastic. But I'm like, tell me what's better about the tobacco leaves in Cuba than non-Cuba. I'm just not buying the hype. I'm not buying the hype about Cuban cigars. I really like light, mild cigars. There's not a particular brand that I'm married to. And, there is, I'm going to totally forget. I'm going to totally forget. I do like Rocky Patel cigars, but in general, to me, I don't even find uniformity, consistency amongst a specific brand per se. It's just a type. I like mild, light cigars. So I also like going to like the cigars.com website and just seeing what cheap sample packs do they have out there. I do not find that more expensive cigars are better than cheap cigars. I mean, I'm perfectly happy with a $3 or $4 cigar. I don't paying $15 or $20 for a cigar is like, ugh, I've never noticed a meaningful change in quality. So that's the best I can do, Denver Steve-O. Always good to see you in here. And thanks for the cigar chat. All right, let's find the next one. Oh, okay. I misspoke here. Euthanizing. Euthanasia is mercy killing, not murder. Hitler, Stalin, etc. did not euthanize. No, you're right. Genocide was actually the word I was looking for. Yeah, euthanize means something totally different. You got me there. Corrected. Violator. Thank you for the super sticker, Violator. I appreciate that. Yeah, euthanize. That's what you do to an old animal. Okay, Lady Veritas. Thank you for the super sticker, Lady Veritas. Let's see. Cheryl Fullerton. Apparently, OT11 is a time machine. Yes, a time machine to go back and remind L. Ron Hubbard to write the rest of the OT levels before he dropped the body. That would be an amazing thing to have on an OT level. Denver Steve-O again. Congrats on 150K. Thank you so much, Denver Steve-O. Thank you so much. We're looks like I just lost one. We're at 150,007, but that's okay. Subscribers come and they go, but mostly they come and they stay for the party, and that's really cool. Thank you again, Denver Steve-O. Oh, here we go. Care for JC YouTube. Always good to see you in here as well. Been watching since your interviews on the couches and chairs. Oh, right. I love your live streams. Yes. Some of the first interviews I ever published on this channel were interviews with Mike Rinder. It's probably about 7 years ago in my living room on some couches and oversized chairs. And then we did some more interviews on the outside patio of his house at a table and chairs. And then some more interviews at the outside patio of my house on some outside table and chairs. And what's amazing is going back to those videos and seeing how crap the audio was. Like, what did we think we were doing? But that's okay. Everyone starts just however they start. And I think anyone who's putting anything up on YouTube, furthering the conversation about Scientology and how Scientology treats children and families and takes advantage of people and exploits the elderly and the vulnerable and the gullible and even the not so gullible. I say more videos, the better. To hell with the audio quality, to hell with the video quality. Just start somewhere and put something up. And that's what I did. And guys, even to this very day, I record all of my videos on my iPhone. I am currently looking into the back camera of my iPhone. You don't need anything special. I've got one light there, one light there. They each cost about 20 bucks. I've got another little light there that probably cost about 10 bucks. And the biggest investment I made was actually this microphone, which might cost 250 bucks. And that's it, guys. That's all it takes. That's all it takes to start doing videos. Thank you for the chat. Thank you very, very much. All right, Jennifer M. Someone said all three of Tom Cruise's ex-wives are out of Scientology. Is Mimi Rogers out of Scientology? Oh, yeah. Mimi Rogers has been out of Scientology for a very long time. All three of Tom Cruise's ex-wives are considered suppressive persons by Scientology. It's incredible. So I think Mimi Rogers, her father had been a big, successful Scientology mission holder. And her father, I believe, I could have this wrong. I get details like this wrong sometimes. Her father was one of the mission holders who sort of fell out of grace with Scientology. I don't know if he was kicked out in that the mission holders conference where a ton of mission holders were declared suppressive and kicked out and had all their money taken. I don't know if he was one of those or if he got in trouble later or he left later. But Mimi's father, I believe, is considered an SP, and I think Mimi is considered an SP. Thank you for the super chat. Okay. Looking for the next one. All right, Andy Law. What you said about the YouTube algorithm is why some larger channels like Everyday Astronaut keep live chat going and keep us mods very busy. Yes, Andy, love to see you in here. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you tell Tim how much I love him and his channel. I want to make sure I really understand this. Keeps the live chat going. Does he do a lot of live streams? Are you talking about, is that because can you turn off the live chat when you do a live stream? Yeah. Imagine a channel like Emily D. Baker, who has millions of subscribers. I think she has millions. And does multi-hour live streams every day. That is a lot of engagement and activity. And imagine how hard it is for her, if not impossible, to even respond to all the super chats. But yeah, interesting. I've never been on a live stream on the Everyday Astronaut channel, but I'll have to check that out. That's a live stream I would be interested in joining. Thank you for that super chat, Andy. I appreciate it. Okay, I see another one here. Decultified. Congratulations on 150,000 subscribers. And thank you for all you do, Aaron. Love from the UK. Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And I got to tell you, I think I will be going to the UK soon. I'm not sure if it'll be London or Dublin or maybe both. But if I do, maybe we'll do some sort of a UK, try to do some sort of a UK meetup. That would be a lot of fun. Thank you, Decultified. Jon Snow, Jon Snow. What do you know, if anything, about Suzette Hubbard? She's the last member of the family who hasn't left. Miscavige was merciless to everyone but her. It's not Suzette. Diana Hubbard is the one who's still in. And I actually don't know anything about the Hubbard children. It's one of these things where it's hard for me, no matter how many times I have been told about what happened to each one of the Hubbard children and which ones are alive and which ones are dead and what each one of them are doing. I can never retain any of the information because I never met them. I never knew them. I don't know what they look like. I have nothing in my mind to attach the information to that I get about the Hubbard kids. But I do know that Diana is the one who's still in. And I haven't heard anything about her at all in years and years and years. So I wish I could give you more on this one, but I just can't, unfortunately. Thank you for the super chat, though. Okay, John Sustowski, I remember you from last night, I think. Can't OT 9 and 10 just be some parts of the script from The Matrix? It definitely could be. So earlier in this video, when I said OT8, everything OT8 and above is supposed to be positive gain and not negative gain, that makes it a little impossible. I use impossible. Impossible is a tough word to use because Miscavige can always come up with something. but it kind of makes it impossible to have OT 9 and 10 be relating to getting rid of more body thetans. Because getting rid of body thetans is negative gain in the world of Scientology. And L. Ron Hubbard said OT8 and above is all positive gain. So what the hell are you supposed to do? And yet, it's funny, when you think about OT8, you go, well, wait, is OT8 positive gain? What did they do for OT8? On OT8, you just go back through a lot of your past life recalls that you've had in your auditing sessions up to that point. And you find out, you determine with the help of the e-meter, which one of those recalls actually belong to you and which one of those recalls belong to the body thetans. Does that sound like positive gain? How the hell is that positive gain? How's that positive gain? It's not positive gain, but I can tell you what it's not. It's not getting rid of body thetans. So the precedent has been set. You're not supposed to be getting rid of body thetans after OT7. So what the heck is it going to be? If it can't be getting rid of body thetans, it could have to be, like you said, some part of the matrix. The Wachowski sisters could be hired by Miscavige to write up OT 9 and 10. And that would probably be a movie that would be worth seeing, at least. And they could write up something for OT 9 and 10. Miscavige could release it as OT 9 and 10. And it could also be released as a movie. And nobody would know the difference because Scientologists aren't allowed to talk about what's on OT 9 and 10. It would be the biggest joke, the biggest inside joke of all time would be the next Wachowski sisters script is actually OT 9 and 10, but nobody knows it except for those who did OT 9 and 10. Thank you, John. Stephanie Gould. My friend just got an email from a casting director at Golden Era Productions for a Scientology in-house film. He Instagrammed his response, no thanks. Stephanie, I get so many emails from people in LA who get these casting calls from Golden Era Productions for the various things. They don't even pay that well. Just water, folks. All right, what's next? Warren Rice. Let's see, how far behind the super chat am I now? Oh, I'm catching up. I'm only 6 minutes behind the super chat, but behind the live stream here. Fantastic. Assuming that Scientology tax exempt status can be revoked, how long do you think it could last before imploding? You know, Mike gave some insight into this question last night, Mike Rinder. He said Scientology could just start paying its taxes. And the biggest hit to losing its tax exempt status is the protection that it will lose in the courts. That is the real threat to Scientology. That it will no longer be protected from certain lawsuits by nature of being considered a religion. And that those lawsuits would result in massive financial settlements and the floodgates would open to lawsuits. And that is what Scientology really has to fear in losing its tax exempt status. I think there's another argument to be made there that while Scientology has a ton of money in reserves and makes a lot of interest on that money, they do not have the cash flow required to pay the taxes on all of their properties. So, whereas I don't know exactly how much interest Scientology earns on its reserves, I think there's an argument to be made. I would wonder if they really do have enough cash flow and make enough interest to pay all the annual taxes on all their properties, plus the electric bills and the water bills. Maybe they do. But you add on top, so it depends on what we mean by imploding. So if Scientology lost its tax exempt status, I do think that within 10 years of losing their tax exempt status, they would probably be all but bankrupted due to lawsuits. And it's hard for me to say. I mean, guys, look, they found against Alec Jones for $1 billion, and he's just a guy. If you had hundreds and thousands of Scientologists suing Scientology for crimes against children, crimes against the elderly, financial crimes, various types of fraud, I think it's pretty easy to see Scientology being found liable for billions of dollars in damages. Well, Scientology doesn't have enough money to pay billions of dollars in damages. Billions is just about all they have, a few billion. And so, yeah. So I think whenever they do lose a tax exempt status, I would probably put it at about 10 years because litigation can take 10 years. I mean, the Laura DiCrescenzo lawsuit took 9 years, and that was just one lawsuit from one person. And that was a lawsuit where Scientology wasn't literally fighting for its existence, and it lasted for 10 years or 9 years. So thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Anon, a new Reckless Ben video came out about Xenu. Very fun to watch if you haven't. Would be great to see a reaction video eventually, which I'm sure you will. Oh, I absolutely did. And I did watch their video, and I thought it was great. I thought it was so brave of them to actually set up a table and a tent right outside of Scientology's main center to bring in new people in Hollywood. And I don't know how they did that without getting fined or cited for setting up on a sidewalk. Perhaps you can set up on a sidewalk if you're not actually blocking the sidewalk. But I actually spoke to Ben on the phone. The video that he did there was one of 3 different ideas he had for Scientology videos. And I think we're going to see more Scientology videos from Ben. And we spoke about his various ideas and which ones I thought would work and which ones that I thought wouldn't work. And I think we're going to see a lot of more good stuff from Ben. I definitely recommend people watch the Scientology videos published on the Reckless Ben YouTube channel. And they did another video recently of another cult that ran this restaurant, and everyone had to work for free in the restaurant. And they got around the laws by saying everyone who worked in the restaurant was a part owner of the LLC. So Ben arranged for like 15 or 20 of his friends to go work at the restaurant so that they would become part owners of the LLC, so that they could vote out all of the cult members from the LLC and open it up as a real restaurant that actually paid people real money. And a fascinating video. They're very brave and creative over there on the Reckless Ben channel. Thank you for that. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Emily Baker has about 700,000 subs, but she does her best. Is it really only 700,000? That's incredible to me. She's so prolific in her content. I thought it was millions, but you know what? Her content is the kind of content that a channel that has millions of subscribers would do. Like the quality that she does. I really like her stuff. So hopefully she'll have millions soon. But yeah, and it turns out that Emily D. Baker has her own experience with Scientology. When she was a prosecutor in California, it turns out Scientology tried to mess with her. And I don't have all the details, but I have tried to contact Emily to see if it's something she wants to discuss. I haven't heard back, but hopefully eventually that I will. And I'll try again, because wouldn't that be cool? What a fun crossover that would be, to either have me interview Emily, or maybe if Claire Headley interviewed Emily, that would be super interesting. Thank you, Kat. All right, let's see. Sarah Wilson. Andy Law, I assumed you weren't, as I lived. Oh, okay. Sorry. I jumped in the middle of a conversation here. And I also live in Scott. Okay. Andy Law. Oh, sorry. I jumped in the middle of a conversation. Doesn't make total sense. Oh, Andy. Yes, you can turn off live chat. I see. Tim keeps it on. And yes, I told him that you follow him. Awesome. Very awesome. Oh, I see some inappropriate comments that I cannot share. Let me see. Oh, Alex, Apostate Alex, hit me up if you come to London. Well, you know I will. Absolutely. And also Kelly Copter and also Andrew Gold and a whole bunch of other people. That would be a lot of fun. Probably take over a pub in London or something like that. All right. No, oh, I didn't mean Dublin was in the UK, Anna. I didn't mean Dublin was in the UK. If I said it that way, I didn't, or did I say that? Or, oh wait, Dublin in the, okay, well now I have to check. Is Dublin, I know, see, Ireland, Northern Ireland, I know one's part of the UK, one's not. I don't know if Dublin is in Ireland or Northern Ireland. Is Dublin part of the UK? Dublin is in the Republic of Ireland. It is not part of the United Kingdom. The Republic of Ireland is a separate country from the United Kingdom. So there you go. I just meant London and Dublin, 2 separate places. Actually, I was just, I think I told you guys, I was at a wedding in Pottsville, Pennsylvania. And one of the guys who came to the wedding was a friend from Dublin Daniel McCluskey flew all the way from Ireland to Pottsville. Pottsville is the home of Yuengling beer in the United States. It's also the oldest brewery in the United States. And there is an Irish pub in Pottsville called Club 18. I don't know why it's called Club 18. It's just a dive bar. It's not a club. And I'll tell you, being in an Irish pub in central Pennsylvania with an actual Irish person was one of the most fun things I have ever experienced. We're talking Irish. And it really made me want to go to Dublin. So there you go. All right, let's see. Heather Smith. NLP coined in the 1970s, but old as man, it's slipping through the critical thinking of the mind, convincing someone the sky is green when they know it's blue. It has good uses, easily perverted by con men. I got to read this again. NLP coined in the 70s, but old as man. It is slipping through the critical thinking of the mind, convincing someone the sky is green when they know it's blue. It has good uses, easily perverted by con men. Yeah, the fact that NLP is also so closely associated with sales strategy has me interested in understanding what role it plays exactly, and whether it's more applicable in Scientology sales techniques or whether it has applicability to Scientology auditing and training is something I'd be interested in understanding more. I should do an interview with somebody who's an expert in NLP. Thank you for that, Heather. All right. We are truly getting close to being caught up to the super chat. Let me see here. Goldie is explaining here, the bigger the super chat, the more characters you'll be able to type. Yes. That's something that I myself was only able to figure out when I started doing super chats on Marc and Claire's live streams. So like if you do it, and also it took me a while to even figure out, like I thought that I could type my comment and then hit the little super chat button and it would allow me to use that comment and determine how much of a super chat that I wanted to send. But that's not how it works. If you type out your whole comment and then you hit your super chat button, it basically erases the whole comment that you just made. And you have to hit the super chat button, then select how many dollars you want your super chat to be. And the more dollars it is, the more characters you're allowed to type in the super chat. And even then, I couldn't figure out where the hell I was supposed to type the characters. I like to think of myself as someone who's sort of tech savvy, but I'm sort of reminded every now and then that is not really true. I swear to God, it took me 20 minutes to figure out how to do a frickin' super chat on Marc and Claire's channel the first time that I tried to do it. But yeah, when you select the dollar amount, it tells you how many characters you can type. And then if you exceed those characters, if you want to do the whole thing, you got to do like an extra $1 or something. So yeah, super chats. Super chats are an interesting thing. Thank you, Goldie, for being the best moderator in the world and for helping people to understand how this works. All right, let's see. Here's an interesting one. Joyce Lamaro Barlow. Hi, Aaron. Love your channel. Recently watched Avatar, Scientology Reworked with Ariella Sarai with John Atek. Does the Aftermath Foundation help ex-Avatar people? I don't know. We're not talking about the movie, right? Avatar must be a cult. The Aftermath Foundation only helps people leaving Scientology. We do have an organization that we refer people to who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. I think there's an organization for ex-Mormons that we know of that we refer people to. But I've never heard of the Avatar cult. And I do not know who Ariella Sarai is. I do, of course, know who John Atak is. But that's the answer to your question about the Aftermath Foundation. Okay, let's see here. Simone Ferran. Give me a second here. Simone, hi, Aaron. I didn't realize your foundation helps ex-members of other cults. Well, that's because we do not. When I was very little, my family left the Jehovah's Witnesses. Wow. So one of my favorite YouTubers is a guy who does movie reviews. And of course, I'm going to go blank on his name real quick. So I'm going to look it up. Movie reviews. And he announced, after he was already quite famous on YouTube, that the reason he doesn't talk about his past is because he actually grew up in a cult. And it's Chris Stuckman. And I'm almost positive it was the Jehovah's Witnesses that he grew up in. Now I'm going to look like a real moron if it was actually the Mormons. But I'll tell you what I should do. I had messaged him on Twitter after he did his sort of coming out video. And I gave him the name of the organization that we refer people to, which means it must have been, I'm just looking at my messages with Chris, and therefore it must have been the JWs. So yeah. Yep. JWs. Hey, Chris, been a huge fan. Just started watching your video now about having been raised in the Jehovah's Witnesses. Chris Stuckman has an amazing video he posted to his YouTube channel talking about growing up in the Jehovah's Witnesses and him and his wife leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. And well, now I can't remember, was it him and his wife both members? Yeah. Anyway, it's an amazing video, and the pain. The Jehovah's Witnesses, in my experience, the stories that I've heard from former Jehovah's Witnesses are the most closely related stories to the stories that former Scientologists have of leaving Scientology. And it was just amazing to find out that a guy I'd been watching on YouTube for years had a similar experience of being raised in a cult and having, you know, the whole destruction of families, of the family unit that occurs when members of that organization leave. So there you go. All right. Jilly Bean Stevenson. Hi from the Scottish Highlands. What are your thoughts on sites like Aaron's Smith-Levin? I watched a couple of the videos today. So hateful. Congrats on the 150,000. Well, Jilly Bean, thank you for the super chat. I've actually done a lot of videos on my channel reviewing the content on that website that Scientology created. That website went live the very night that my episode aired in season 1 of Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath. Every person that appeared in Leah Remini's TV show got one of those hate websites. And those videos are hilarious. And I even, now that I've been having this success on YouTube and we launched the SPTV thing with Marc and Mike, Marc Headley, Claire Headley, Mike Rinder, Scientology's been completely revamping our websites. They have completely redone and updated the hate website about me. And in response to that, I have chosen, I'm going to take their shitty, hateful videos and I'm going to make money off of them. So last week, I published a review of the video that my sister-in-law, Katarina Tozier-Smith, did. And then I published just a few days ago a review of a video that one of my former friends and coworkers, Andrea Lewis Butterworth, did. I'm going to do the video that my mother-in-law did. I'm going to do a video that my other sister-in-law did. I'm going to do a video that some of my coworkers, and most of those people are, that did videos about me weren't even my coworkers. They worked in other organizations that never worked with me. So some really strange stuff going on there. I think those websites, the hate websites that Scientology puts up, make them look so much worse than it makes any of the people that they're talking about look. That I'm almost glad they keep doing them. Like Scientology really shoots themselves in their own foot by putting out all that ridiculous, hateful, obviously exaggerated and false content, that it's almost like, it's hard to even get upset that they're doing it. It's like, keep doing it, guys. You make yourself look ridiculous. So thank you for the question. Let's see. Okay. I'm getting all phlegmy. It must be us talking about all the OT levels having this effect. It's giving me pneumonia light. Early onset pneumonia over here. The Doodle Queen. Think about the biggest piece of shit you dealt with in Scientology. How would the Aftermath Foundation feel about helping them if they reached out, like Cardone, etc.? So the answer is no matter how much of a total douche somebody was in Scientology, if they were leaving Scientology and genuinely needed the help, we would absolutely help them. Someone like Cardone wouldn't need help. He has money. Cardone's just not a realistic example. Even if Cardone were bankrupt and broke and whatever, it's just not a realistic example. But there really is nobody in Scientology who we would deny help to if they genuinely needed it. And yeah, that's just how we do. That's just what we do. Thank you, Doodle Queen. Marylin Honig. Thank you for another super chat, Marylin. Aaron, do you ever feel triggered by any of the Scientology talk? I escaped from an abusive Pentecostal cult commune 15 years ago, and I cringe a little when people jump on your chat and preach the God stuff. Nope. So I don't feel triggered by the Scientology talk. I do know a bunch of people who are triggered by it. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it doesn't trigger me. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about stuff like that, but it doesn't trigger me. And for some reason, I also don't get tired of talking about it. The fact that the Aftermath Foundation exists and the fact that I work with the Aftermath Foundation gives me kind of an additional motive to talk about this as much as possible. Knowing that talking about Scientology issues will guarantee that people who are in Scientology will stumble upon your content gives me kind of an extra drive and motivation to keep talking about it, even if I were getting tired of it, which I'm not. And as long as there are people in Scientology who need help leaving, I will always have a reason to keep talking about it. It's not just trolling David Miscavige. It's not, just to stay busy. There's plenty of things I could be doing. I could be doing nothing, and that would be totally fine. But Scientology, when you realize how committed Scientologists are, who are true believers, and when you realize that, like, it really is a very serious thing. It's life and death to Scientologists. When you consider that, you realize just how horribly Scientologists have to be treated to get them to leave Scientology. And then you see how many people are leaving Scientology, and people are still being treated horribly. Families are still being destroyed. Enforced disconnection still exists. People are still being trafficked. As long as those things are happening, the Aftermath Foundation has a reason to exist, and I have a reason to keep doing videos. So for those reasons and more, I just don't get tired of talking about it, and I don't get triggered by talking about it. And that's how I'm able to even do as many videos as I do. Someone else might just be like, I just can't stand talking about it for that long. I guess I'm lucky that it doesn't bother me. Thank you, Marylin. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm only 12 minutes behind the chat here. So let's see. Barry Stevenson. What is the food like? I assume you're talking about the Sea Organization now, Barry. Burger cookouts or parties. I do not see many overweight Scientologists. I assume you drink the Kool-Aid every day. So in the Sea Organization, yeah, you don't see very many overweight Scientologists. It's not because they don't eat enough. It's considered, Scientology has a phrase they call a degraded being, a DB, and not like being very poorly presented. Like if you're very unhealthy, if you're very overweight, if you're ungroomed, Scientologists look very much down on those kind of things. I have seen some extremely obese, overweight Scientologists, and it's not like you'll get kicked out of Scientology for being morbidly obese, but people will think very lowly of you. There's got to be another reason why there aren't, like, I haven't thought about that much about the obese Scientologists. People ask me about, God, my mouth's getting really dry. Hold on. People ask me a lot about the disabled in Scientology. You don't see really any disabled Scientologists, and that's a whole other thing. But overweight Scientologists, it's just true. Okay, there's one Sea Org member in LA. His name is Sean Collins, who is incredibly morbidly obese. And that was always a mystery to me, because staying that fat in the Sea Org takes a lot of work. I mean, you just have to be absolutely inhaling all the bread and pasta you can find at every meal to maintain that kind of a waistline in the Sea organization. And I mean, like, he was my age and he probably had a waistline 5 times bigger than me. And he was so fat that they wanted to send him to Flag for full-time auditor training. And Flag disapproved him from auditing because they said, he's too fat. And so they actually photoshopped a picture of him and sent it on an updated request for approval for him to go to Flag. And they had to lie. They had to send a doctored photo of him so that they would approve him. And then when he showed up and they're like, God damn, you're fat. They said, but I guess we'll just put you on a diet while you're here because you're already here. We're not going to send you back. So they had to lie just to get Sean approved. Sean, even though he was a Sea Org member, might literally be the fattest Scientologist I've ever known. And anyway, I'm kind of going on a tangent here because I like teasing Sean Collins. Because in addition to being a large gentleman, that wasn't really what was wrong with him. What was wrong is Sean Collins is also one of the most evil, manipulative, conniving people I've ever known. It'd be one thing if he was just a really big guy, but a real sweetheart and a real teddy bear. He is one of the most disgusting, manipulative people I ever knew in Scientology. And he just happened to also be the largest person, one of the largest people I ever knew in Scientology. So, okay, I'm getting off the topic here. Sea Org food is pretty run-of-the-mill standard food. It's not just, I've always taken heat for saying the food was pretty good. I never missed a meal in the Sea Org. Some people would work through meals. Hey, I'm not the kind of guy who's going to miss a meal. I eat food. I love food. I eat. Nothing gets between me and a meal. So the food at Flag is actually in Clearwater, Florida, is actually especially good for Sea Org food. The food at Celebrity Center is especially good. You don't have things like cookouts in the Sea Org. I mean, you only have 20-minute meal breaks. No one's flipping burgers on a barbecue. So you said, what's the food like? Burger cookouts or parties? Yeah, no burger cookouts, no parties. Now, if you're a public Scientologist, like if you're David Greenbaum in Clearwater, you're throwing big backyard parties, you're throwing Super Bowl parties, you know, you're doing all this kind of stuff. Public Scientologists live relatively normal lives. It's totally different for Sea Org members. And yeah, you're not allowed to drink Kool-Aid because you're really not allowed to consume a lot of sugar in the Sea Org, which is another reason why it was so remarkable that Sean Collins managed to continue to be so massively morbidly obese. It's like, what are you doing, dude? How do you accomplish that? You know, you even had Flag saying you're too fat to come to Flag. The guy couldn't even lose weight. It was incredible. I mean, maybe it's genetic. I know people say you could have a pituitary or a thyroid problem that makes it impossible for you to lose weight. I don't know the science behind that. I've always doubted that. It's calories in, calories out. I mean, can you get a tumor in your thyroid and you're magically like, I have trouble understanding. And again, I'm not saying I'm an expert and I don't understand it. I'm saying I'm not an expert and I don't understand it. I don't understand how a problem with your thyroid can override the calories in, calories out reality of how your body processes energy. And so when I saw someone like a Sean who just managed to stay that big, it was like, man, you must really be committed to this. I don't know how he did it. All right, moving on. Brett Grace, I made that SPTV Moonman trailer. Oh, that's right. Brett Grace. Wait, hold on. Oh, so your channel is Space Cadet Brett. Fantastic. Yeah, so you guys on last night's Mondays with Mike and Marc, on the intro, I showed like a spaceman and there was an intro for me and it was the intro for SPTV. Brett Grace made that video. So, okay, I made the SPTV Moonman trailer intro, by the way. So happy you guys like it. Was just for fun. There too many great SPTV channels to include them all. That's true. The audio is already 1.5 speed to shorten it. Fantastic, Brett. If you have any other kind of fun videos that you want to put together for any of us to use in our videos in any way, happy to do so. Those were fantastic. Thank you so much for doing that. That really was great. Okay, let's see. I'm actually catching up here. I'm catching up. Lady Veritas. Why are there 2 stories about LRH's return? I just worked out the bloody super chat. Yay, no longer a fossil. Thank you, Lady Veritas. This really is a mystery. This one really is a mystery. And what she's talking about here is, why is it that some Scientologists say L. Ron Hubbard is supposed to return and David Miscavige is preparing for his arrival, or was, And other Scientologists say L. Ron Hubbard was not supposed to come back. He was supposed to go off to Target 2, some unspecified planet in another solar system, and get Scientology kickstarted on Target 2 while we wrapped up the job here on Earth. No one knows the answer for why there's two stories. Every Scientologist in the world was told the Target 2 story. Only a handful of people at Scientology's international base were secretly told by L. Ron Hubbard that he would be returning in approximately 18 to 21 years, and that certain things needed to be done before his return. If that was really his plan, why didn't he tell everyone? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. When I first heard from Mike Rinder and some of the other former senior executives about this L. Ron Hubbard was returning thing, I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what to make of it. I didn't know how to process it. I was like, what are you talking about? Why would there be two stories? And I remember having a conversation with Mike Rinder about it one time. And he actually told me he did not realize there were two stories, because this isn't something that was really ever discussed. Mike was one of these people who was at international management and was told this thing about him returning. And it didn't really occur to him that other Scientologists didn't realize that that's what was expected. And I'll actually ask Mike about that the next time that we do a chat. Because, yeah, I remember Mike saying, I mean, this isn't something we discussed on a daily basis. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard returning wasn't exactly on the top of everyone's mind ever. And it was certainly never discussed. Mike didn't really interact with public Scientologists very much. His job was to handle the legal stuff and the media and the PR. He wasn't going around the world asking Scientologists what they thought about L. Ron Hubbard's return prospects. And so I remember in the conversation with him where I sort of pointed out, like, wait, you thought one thing and everyone else thought another? Like, did you realize that? He's like, I never even thought about it. I was like, wow. And this is also an example of something that's like, whether L. Ron Hubbard was supposed to return or not should in fact be such an important part of the Scientology story. And even on something as important as that, Scientologists believe two completely separate things. Kind of like you have a bottom half of the bridge and an upper confidential half. And Scientologists who've done the confidential upper half have a completely different understanding of what Scientology even is than Scientologists who've only done the lower half. In the past, I've referred to Scientology as being kind of, what's the word? Did I say schizophrenic? And then people give me a hard time for, misusing these mental health terms. And by schizophrenic, I just mean in so many ways, Scientology has two completely different personalities. And people go, that's not what schizophrenic means. I don't give a shit what schizophrenic means in the DSM. This is a word I just use colloquially. Scientologists at the upper half of the bridge have a completely different understanding of Scientology as those at the lower. And Scientologists, Sea Org members who worked at the international base, have a completely different understanding of what L. Ron Hubbard said was supposed to happen after he died than all the Scientologists who didn't. And nobody really knows why. Thank you, Lady Veritas. Kitty and Lou, Hub's coming back as... I'm not sure I can say that on YouTube. But you guys can read, right? Hubbard is coming back as an adult toy that goes in your bum due to all of the phobias. There we go. I figured out how to say it. All right, let's see. Scrolling. All right, let's see. Video watching guy 21. First live. Why isn't Leah Remini more active on YouTube or more involved in SPTV? I know she has uploaded the Fair Game podcast, but curious, why not more? I have two possible answers. One, Leah's very busy with projects that she does. Two, Leah requires a lot of makeup and hair before allowing herself to be photographed or videoed. That's probably the main answer. So whereas someone like me, who just wears the same style shirt every day and doesn't have to have a bunch of hair and no makeup to speak of, I can just sit down and pop out 3 or 4 videos in a day without too much trouble. Leah Remini would need a makeup crew and hairstylist, which she does have. I mean, she has a hair and makeup crew, but I don't know that they don't live with her. And yeah, so I think that what's supposed to happen is Mike is supposed to get his YouTube channel like totally streamlined. He's supposed to figure it all out. He's supposed to get his operation going so that it's smooth as butter. And he gets all the technical stuff figured out, and it's not having to rework the lights and the camera and the this is and that, and figure out how to do the share the screen and do whatever. I think when Mike is just very, very smooth and can figure out how to do videos quickly without a lot of fuss, that Leah's supposed to sort of like swoop in and join him. That's my understanding. And also, I think Leah is going to sit down and do an interview with Claire pretty soon on the subject of Shelly Miscavige. So, yeah, and that's the only answer. There's no negative answer to that. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, we got some more information here on the Avatar cult. Avatar is a cult founded by Harry Palmer. He ran a Scientology mission in Elmira, New York in the 1970s. Incredible. Basically copied Scientology lingo and ideas. Well, there you go. Scientology is such an effective cultic system that it can even be copycatted by other, less prolific cultists than L. Ron Hubbard, and still succeed in creating cult offshoots. And then, of course, you have Est, which is a cult in its own right, if you ask me. Thank you, Golden Age of Lunacy. Love your little shoot there, your little Photoshop of L. Ron Hubbard there. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. Danny Crook. As long as there are still people in looking to get out, we will keep subscribing, liking, sharing, and supporting. That's awesome. Thank you, Danny. I really appreciate it. All right, let's see. Anon A. Any new information about Whitney Mills? I'm so embarrassed I have not done my next Whitney Mills video yet. Every day, it's near the top of my list of things that I want to do videos about. There's some stuff I cannot say that will be coming out, but I need to wait for it to come out. But I do have another video. I do have a lot more text messages from Whitney Mills, between Whitney Mills and Dr. David Minkoff. And I just have to do the video about it. I just have to do it. So when I do that video, I mean, I'll say this week, hopefully it's this week, but I've been saying this week for like 2 months now, it feels like. So coming soon though. That's what I can say. Coming soon. Goldie, if you're currently in Scientology, please know that there's much love for you out here. The world wants you back. www.theaftermathfoundation.org. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, hold on. Alex. Apostate Alex. Isn't there a really high up Sea Org executive at PAC that's morbidly obese? So actually, now that you remind me, Alex, you're talking about Mike Ellis, Scientology's international justice chief. And yes, the photos that you have seen of Mike Ellis riding his bike with his bike helmet that barely fits on his head, that is about as big as Sean Collins is. But you see, I've never met Mike Ellis, whereas I saw Sean every day for 4 years. So Mike Ellis is sort of an out of sight, out of mind person for me, but you're right. And it is interesting that Mike Ellis has lasted so long on that post, considering how negative, how derogatory David Miscavige would think of Mike Ellis for being as big as he is. So, yep. Thank you for that one, Alex. All right, let's see. Ragdoll Ralph. I just checked your hate site for fun and realized there was a police interview I hadn't noticed before. Anything interesting to note with that video? Yeah, there is an interview that I had with some police officers because I called the police. The police came to a place where I was on Clearwater Beach because I called them. And then Scientology publishes the body cam footage of me talking to the police as if, like, you know, my house was raided or something. Anyway, I already did a video discussing that whole interview and the context of it in a video called something like TikTok Scientologist. There's a video on my channel called Scientologist Exposes My Crimes on TikTok. And in that video, I discuss that police interview. So check that out, Ragdoll. I think you'll enjoy that. It involves Hulk Hogan and his girlfriend. So check that out. It's actually a lot of fun. All right, scrolling on through here. I think we are getting close to the end here. I'm only 11 minutes behind the chat. And, oh, wait, what's this? What's this? Apostate Alex. In London org, we didn't talk about it a lot, but there was the consensus that LRH would come back at some point, and that's why we have an office for him. Well, Alex, that's just, I hear what you're saying. But you see, that's incorrect, though. Like, that's not why there's an office in every org. So even Scientologists who thought that were, to be perfectly honest, being kind of stupid. Like, nowhere in any LRH policy does it say that's why the office is there. In fact, there's policy that does say why the office is there. It is supposed to be there as an indication that the org is still on source, that the org operates as if it was still under the direct observation of or guidance of L. Ron Hubbard, or operated in the same way today as it did back when L. Ron Hubbard was personally running the organization. So, it is possible that some, relatively new Scientologists or staff members got it in their head that maybe that was the reason. But the truth is, that's not the reason. And I can tell you that in the 15 years that I spent on staff and in the Sea Org and at Flag and at PAC, I literally never even once heard a staff member or a Sea Org member or a public even imply L. Ron Hubbard was coming back. So I don't think any of the staff members in the London org had any inside track or hidden data line on LRH's real intentions. I really just think they were misunderstanding what the ceremonial office of L. Ron Hubbard was there for. And I guess that would be an example of a broken clock just being right twice a day. But yeah, I mean, that's just people misunderstanding the purpose of L. Ron Hubbard's office. Because even people who thought L. Ron Hubbard was coming back at the international base would tell you that's not the reason for the L. Ron Hubbard office. So, but I do get what you're saying there. Thank you for that, Alex. All right, let's see. Marcus, I didn't realize there were two stories of Hubbard's return. I know the 21-year story, but what's the other? Well, the other story is that he went off to Target 2. And Target 2 was an unspecified planet in some other galaxy or solar system or galaxy. Unspecified, of course, where L. Ron Hubbard was going to get Scientology started. And we were going to have to finish the job here. And yeah. All right. Next super chat here. The table. Cage fight. DM versus Mike's bobblehead. Who wins? I think the bobblehead has a fighting chance. The bobblehead is made out of ceramic. It's quite hard, maybe harder than Miscavige's head. And so, if maybe we'd have to have a set of rules, like maybe if Miscavige, like you ever seen the Robot Wars? You ever watch those YouTube videos of they create these little robots and they put the robots in a cage and they fight? So, and some of those robots have like rotating metal wheels and blades and flamethrowers and stuff like that. If you could put David Miscavige sitting on top of one remote controlled robot and Mike Rinder bobblehead sitting on top of another remote controlled robot and have a special edition of Robot Wars, Scientology edition, Bobble Mike would have a fighting chance. That is absolutely for sure. Thank you, The Table. Arlene Goebel. Does Leah wear her Louis Vuitton shoes when on camera? I doubt it. That would be a little overkill since you're not going to see her feet. I'm guessing she's wearing sweats from the waist down. That's my guess. I mean, Who gets fully dressed up to come on camera from the waist up? Not me, that's for sure. I'm wearing sweats right now, but that's okay. Even if I'm out, even if I'm out, just out like at the grocery store, I'm usually wearing sweats and this shirt, which is a weird combination, but they're black sweats and a black button-down shirt. Somehow it just works. I don't know. Or maybe I just think it works and no one's ever told me how stupid it looks. That's possible. All right, let's see. Monster in head. Once you get a victim to take even one action based on info they know is false, they become much more easy to manipulate since their integrity is broken. Yeah, that's a very good point. Very, very good point. All right, let's see. Kim White. There is overactive and underactive thyroid, both treated with meds. The first tends to be underweight, and the latter tend to be overweight. My dad had one. Yeah, I wish I did understand this better. I understand, I don't want to get this confused with a pituitary thing. I think if you have some sort of a tumor on your pituitary, that's when you never stop growing and you can get like this gigantism. And the thyroid thing, I think, is just weight related. And yet, how in the world does the activity of your thyroid override the calories in, calories out reality of just metabolism? Or is there something about the thyroid and whether it's overactive or underactive that controls appetite in a way that you cannot override? Like, is that what it is? If somebody has an overactive thyroid, do they just have an appetite? They just cannot help but eat? And I realize we're getting off the subject of this channel, but it is interesting because I haven't seen anyone in the medical field claim that the thyroid situation changes the laws of energy, calories in, calories out, right? Thank you, Kim White. Okay, let's see. Marjan Kakavuski. I wish I had your energy for all that you do. Well, thank you very much. I do like to think the fact that I can talk about Scientology endlessly is at least partly related to the fact that for all the years I was in Scientology, I was able to essentially do Scientology endlessly without really getting tired of it. And for a lot of that time, it was supervising a course room, which required me to essentially be on my feet from 9 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night with only a 30-minute break at 12 and a 15-minute break at 3:30 and a 30-minute break at 6:30. And so, for a good 12 or so years, I was used to doing Scientology all day, all night, all the time, all week, all month, and be on my feet. So the fact that now all I have to do is talk about it and I get to sit on my butt the whole time, it would be impossible for me. It would be impossible for me to spend more energy doing this now than I already spent doing this stuff earlier. I've been conditioned to be able to do this nonstop. Scientology is responsible for this version of me that they wish didn't exist. Thank you, Marjan. I appreciate it. All right, Marika, thank you for the super sticker. Chris Curtin, good to see you, Chris. Please keep doing your voices. Southern lawyer, whiny Scientologist, etc. They are hilarious. You should do audiobooks. That would be so much fun. I would love doing audiobooks. And, I thought that I mentioned recently that I want to use some deep fake technology. I've never played around with deep fake, but it can't be that hard. That I want to do some of my own satirical Scientology hate videos. And then that would also be a really good opportunity to play around with some characters and play around with some voices. And really, it's almost like becoming the Key and Peele of Scientology. Scientology sketch comedy. Doing these fake Scientology hate videos is an endless supply of Scientology satirical comedy. And is it Denver Steve-O? Denver Steve-O, I think it's Denver Steve-O, is gearing up to do either some sort of a dedicated website. Yeah, it was a website. And I hope website married up with a YouTube channel of essentially fake Scientology hate videos. And I hope to be able to participate that in some meaningful way because I don't know. I just love bringing comedy. I just love bringing comedy and humor and some lightheartedness to the Scientology conversation. It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Chris. I really appreciate it. All right. How do you say this? Goran Ekstrom. Goran Ekstrom. A cult like this requires quite a lot of psychological knowledge, which is kind of ironic, to manipulate and control people. Who writes the manual? Yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. And L. Ron Hubbard wrote the manual. And I do believe L. Ron Hubbard had a pretty good understanding of the fields that you mentioned. Fields that can be used for to understand how manipulation is possible. And perhaps it's one of the reasons that he was so against Scientologists studying those fields. Maybe it would become more obvious to them what it was exactly he had created and how he had done it. I think there's probably something to be said for that. Thank you for that. Jilly Bean Stevenson. Was Kirstie Alley looked down on due to her weight? Absolutely, she was. Absolutely, she was. Yeah. Miscavige is no fan of big, unhealthy people. In fact, it's one of the requirements to work in RTC for David Miscavige is that you actually have to be healthy, fit, and attractive. That's not just a coincidence. It really is one of the requirements to work for Miscavige. Anand says, Target 2 was the story I was told growing up in Scientology. Exactly. Exactly, Anand. And it made sense because then you didn't have to wonder why L. Ron Hubbard didn't return. Coming back in your next life is like the thing that is expected from Scientologists. It is the thing that is expected from Sea Org members. And the Target 2 story was the story that explained why we weren't expecting L. Ron Hubbard to come back. So to then find out so many years later that the people at the International Management Base were expecting him to come back was a real shock. And you go, wait, what? Wait, the story we heard was the story that at least made sense because he didn't come back. But you guys were told he was coming back and then he didn't? And then you still believed? That gets a little difficult. Thank you, Anon. We're talking about the thyroid. A dysfunctional thyroid can absolutely pack on a ton of weight very quickly. I learned this the hard way this year. Destroying my life, hypothyroid. Yeah, so I mean, I do hear this a lot. What I don't hear is how. And that's all. That's all I'm saying. I just don't understand it. I'm not denying it's a thing. I'm just saying I don't understand how it works. But I'm sorry to hear that you're having trouble with that. And yeah, so I'd be curious. I mean, I don't want to derail the conversation, but I you know, because this is what you're talking about, I would say I'm curious in your experience, how does it work? Is it affecting your appetite, or are you just magically putting on weight without consuming calories? That's where I get hung up. Thank you, Dixie. All right, let's see. Jilly Bean, you said you love speaking about Scientology and said no triggers. Do you think you speaking about it is like therapy? They say talking about stuff is the best medicine. Well, I do feel that way. I do feel that way. But then people will go, people will take issue with anything you say. So really, who gives a shit? But it's like, you know, even Mike has said, and said yesterday in the live stream that for him, his best therapy has been talking about the experiences with other people who've had similar experiences. And I know many former Scientologists who all feel that same way. But then there are others who feel that they tend to be superior to people who feel that way, that anyone who hasn't had therapy is still stuck in their Scientology biases and hasn't graduated from their cult-like thinking. And everybody must follow their path of recovery, or else they're not following a real path of recovery. And I reject people who say such things, and I reject such people who say such things. So I'm agreeing with your statement. And acknowledging that there are people who will go, the very fact that you say that means you're not really recovered. They would say there's no good reason for you not to want to go speak to a real therapist. And yeah, anyway, you'll see all sorts of interesting reactions to how I've just answered your question. So thank you, Jilly Bean. Let's see, Marcus, what is the best brawl you've seen in Scientology? This is a good one. The best brawl that I saw in Scientology had to do with John Lundeen and another Sea Org member who was the flag rep for ASHO. I couldn't even give you his name. The guy could barely speak English. And technically the flag rep, flag in this case, flag representative, flag in this context means middle management. And the flag rep is supposed to be a person in the organization who essentially observes and reports back to middle management, and also is supposed to be running around the org getting local staff to comply to programs that have been issued from middle management that they're supposed to be executed in the local orgs. And this creates a situation where the commanding officer of any organization at any given time has people operating in his organization who are senior to him. And this creates ego problems. Anyway, one morning at some morning product conference, John Lundeen just went after this guy. I don't even remember why, but it's weird. I mean, John was a decently sizable, strong guy. He wasn't like some old, feeble man. I mean, John Lundeen was never like a big dude. Maybe in his younger years, he was this big, substantial guy, but I guess he's a big guy, but not a huge guy, but not a small guy, medium sized. Anyway, above average. This other guy was just some poor little Latino guy. And guy could barely speak English, but he had done something to piss John Lundeen off. He must have sent some report up lines that was negative about how the captain was running the org. And this was a brawl because the guy was so much smaller than John. And John literally grabbed this guy, except this guy's a member of senior management. It's not like he was John's junior. He's not allowed to lay his hands on this guy. And other people got involved. And one of these things where it was such a scrum. It was like a rugby scrum where I'm not even sure if that fists were thrown. I couldn't promise you that they were. Or even if they were, I'm not sure that anything connected. But you probably had 10 or 15 people in what looked like a rugby scrum, because John Lundeen was going after this poor little Latino flag rep who had gotten on his bad side. And I couldn't even tell you what it was. And by the way, almost all of these physical altercations like this occurred at like 8:30 in the morning. Like, the amount of physical violence that occurs in the Sea organization that is probably attributable to people not being well-fed and well-rested is remarkable. I think it's noteworthy. Most of the big blowups that I had with John Lundeen is when I had, what just happened? The browser lost connection to your camera. Hold on. Hold on, guys. Can you still hear me? Hold on. What is going on? Make sure you have the right camera selected. Oh, okay. Give me a sec here. The body things must be in full restim here. I don't know what happened there, guys. Okay. Most of the physical altercations I had with John Lundeen were when I had rolled out of bed 20 minutes earlier, hadn't showered, hadn't eaten, just had time to throw on my uniform, grab my stats for the morning, and run to morning product conference. And he's giving me shit for why I don't know why the student points in BC Practical are running down week over week. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And then he wants to be like, oh, you don't know. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't know. You want me to make up an answer? I don't know. He's like, okay. Well, and then talks to the chief officer. Chief, what are you going to do about this? And then she says something smart. And then we ended up, and then it leads to an escalation of something where John Lundeen tells me to get the fuck out and I tell him to go to hell. And then people have to remove me from the conference room or something like that. So many things are attributable to just people having had 4 or 5 hours of sleep and being, screamed at 30 minutes after they get out of bed. So yeah, but that between John and the HR, that was between John and the FR, the flag rep, that was probably the best brawl. Okay, Lady Veritas. I'm on a roll now that I can super chat. Another long time mystery to me. What is the EP of OT7? I would have to look it up to make sure, but it definitely has to do with your body being transparent and no more body thetans. I really think it's your body being transparent, and don't ask me to explain how anybody convinces themselves that they've achieved that EP. No one in Scientology has ever seen a transparent body. The idea is that your body's supposed to be actually not to only have BTs attached to it, but your body's supposed to be composed of BTs partially. And so once you have them all gone, your body's supposed to be somewhat transparent. Guys, this doesn't make a bit of sense to me, but it's a truth. I don't know how to I don't know how to explain it. And to the best of my knowledge, that is the EP of OT7. Any experts in the chat who have a better answer to that, please let me know. Kelly Copter just dropping in to say hi. Hello, Kelly Copter. Kelly and I might be doing an interview soon on her channel in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Thanks for joining. Thanks for dropping in, Kelly. Okay, let's see. Oh, different one. Ragdoll Ralph. Sorry to repeat, but the cop interview was something about hacking and a USB. Sounded like some Ocean's 11 shit and got curious, a bit of intrigue. Oh, that's a different thing. That's one where the Aftermath Foundation had helped two people leave Scientology, one was Morgan Bradham. The other one was a guy named Sinjin Nichols. And Morgan Bradham even appeared on an episode of Leah Remini in the Aftermath show, but it never aired because Scientology had Morgan's mother, Carolyn Bradham, who he had disconnected from. She had disconnected from him. Basically, they offered Morgan and Sinjin a deal to flip and turn on the Aftermath Foundation and turn on me because they lived here in Clearwater. I was their main contact at the time. And to actually file false police reports with the Clearwater PD, trying to accuse me of crimes, conspiring to hack into the computer systems of the Church of Scientology. So without knowing exactly what had been going on behind the scenes, I got a call. And this was at the same time as we were helping some people who had experienced a child abuse in Scientology file police reports with the Clearwater PD. So I got a phone call out of the blue from the Clearwater Police. Hey, this is Detective blah, blah, blah. We want you to come in for an interview. And I'm thinking they're just asking me to interview to support these other former Scientologists who were coming forward to the police about having been abused in Scientology. And they called me. I was at the gym. I called them. I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Can I come in? Can I come in like 30 minutes? And they're shocked. They're shocked that I'm just offering to come right in. So I go in. We go into this room. And they present me with this police report that was filed by Sinjin Nichols and Morgan Bradham. Accusing me of conspiring to hack into Scientology's computer systems. And I'm reading through this whole thing. And I go, do you know who this guy is? And do you know who I am? And they're like, what are you talking about? Do you know that this guy is someone who, a foundation I run, we've just helped him leave Scientology. We got him a car. We got him an apartment. He recorded a TV show in Los Angeles with me. Do you understand? Did you know that? They're like, no, we had no idea. Like, you didn't know that the guy filing this police report is a guy who I just helped leave Scientology. And they're like, no. You didn't know that the guy filing this police report is someone that my foundation just purchased a car for and got him an apartment. No, we didn't know that. They were so embarrassed to learn that they had just been being jerked around for what turned out to be weeks. It turns out that Morgan Bradham and Sinjin Nichols had been working with Scientology's attorney for weeks with the Clearwater Police to get these affidavits taken by these people. And that the entire time, the Clearwater Police didn't even know that it was Scientology's attorney they were working with. They didn't even know that these people had been helped by my foundation, the Aftermath Foundation. And so the interview that they published was just the interview of the room that was being recorded when I went in to talk to the Clearwater Police. That's what that was. So there you go, Ragdoll. Yeah, I forgot. And by the way, that the interview that they published, they just published that the last couple of weeks. I've never seen that video before. I didn't even know that video existed. I didn't even know that room was being recorded. I mean, silly me, I should have known. I didn't know Scientology had ever gotten that footage. I've never seen that footage, been given that footage, requested that footage. And so, yeah, really interesting stuff. So there you go. Thank you for the super chat, Ragdoll. All right, let's see. Valerie Boljack, you love that you're making money off Scientology. Back pay, baby. Indeed. Indeed. And that's, again, why I say it, Scientology has no idea what to do with new media. Scientology has never been faced with a situation where the more they try to attack someone, the more that person is actually able to make money off of the attacks. Every video, how much time and money did Scientology spend creating those hate videos? except I'm the one who's going to make money off those hate videos. It's incredible. How much money does Scientology spend on private investigators trying to fair game people? Well, I'm the one who's going to do videos about every time they try to fair game somebody, and those videos make money. Scientology just creating their own enemies, creating and now empowering their own enemies. Truly incredible. Thank you, Valerie. All right, I'm getting a little lightheaded from 3 hours of nonstop talking here, so I think we are getting close here. But Janet Cheney, why do you think the FBI hasn't jumped on Scientology after all the info given by SPs who escaped? Well, Janet, I think there are a number of government agencies who are working very diligently behind the scenes, doing what needs to be done. Think of it this way. When you go after Scientology, you don't want to miss. You want it to be a slam dunk. The feds don't like bringing cases and losing. So the feds want to make sure when they bring something, it is all but signed, sealed, and delivered, even though there really is no such thing. And so all I'm going to say is I think there is stuff being done behind the scenes, and that's why you don't hear me really getting down on or insulting the feds, not just the FBI, other organizations as well, other agencies. Yeah, it's going to be a bad few years for Scientology. That's what I think. Thank you, Janet. Kelly Copter, 150,000 subscribers. Congrats. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you. Thank you very much. So it took me 5 months to go from 100 to 150, and it's almost April. So I should definitely hit 200 by the end of the year. That's going to be, Marc jokes that he's trying to play the L. Ron Hubbard birthday game. He's trying to get more than 80,000 subscribers. He's trying to get more subscribers than Scientology. And I do think that playing some sort of a birthday game for subscribers is a really funny thing that the SPTV channels can do. But we have to figure out what the rules of the game are. How do you assign birthday game points? How do you rate the expansion of one channel against the expansion of another channel? Should it be by percentage? We just have to figure out the rules. But playing a subscriber game, playing an LRH birthday game for subscribers, to me is a really good and funny idea. So we just have to put our heads together and figure out the best way to do it. Thank you, Kelly. Lady Veritas, again, in one version of OT8, he said he would come back as a politician. Maybe not a popular one. You mean like Donald Trump? I'm still looking. Lady Veritas, I don't know about that. I just don't know. I don't think he said anything in any version of OT8 about coming back. And I could be wrong. I think you're conflating the version of OT8 where he said he was the Antichrist with something he might have said about coming back as a politician. I don't know that those two things are the same. But again, I could be wrong. Any experts in the chat on this subject, please chime in on that. Thank you again, Lady Veritas. Much appreciated. All right, let's see. Susie Q. Aaron, you made it to 150,000 subs. Congratulations. Thank you very much, Susie Q. Hopefully I can get to the next 50,000 in less than 5 months. I feel like that's what I would have to do in order to be doing well in the birthday game. It would have to be like % of subscriber growth per month or something like that. But yeah. All right, everybody. Well, this is officially the longest live stream I have ever done. And that's 3 hours went by really, really fast. And I'm pretty sure Marc and Claire's Top 10 Tuesdays starts in less than an hour at 7 p.m. Eastern. So thank you, everyone who have watched all 3 hours, as I know some of you have. Thank you for sticking in there with me. Thank you for watching until the very end. And I will talk to you all very, very soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.